Normally they drift in and takes till about just before 5, so 2-3 minutes, and then we'll start.
Okay.
Hi, and welcome to those who've joined. We're just going to give a couple of minutes for people to still log in. Hi, and welcome again, everyone. I'm just busy checking that everyone can get in. Just check. We will start in a couple of minutes once we see a few more people in. We had also issue with the technical. I see one person has raised their hand. Just want to check, is it something issue that you got there, Dan, or is it just waving hi? Just make sure everyone can chat in the chat box. Everyone, well, I'll post also a link with the slides, but most of the chat, the presentation is going to be a live demonstration, so there hasn't been notes, a lot of notes sent out.
Hi, everyone. Just a couple of minutes left. We'll start in about 2 minutes at 13:05. And so just if you want to make a cup of coffee or do anything in the interim, then please do so, and we'll be back to you in 2 minutes.
That's Dan. I think majority are here, so let's.
Yes, okay, so we'll make a start. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I did look up on the internet to see if AI would give me some sort of opening line or a joke. I typed in the word hello. It says, I'm glad to be with you today. I couldn't work out if it was the computer or me that was supposed to say that. So basically, I'm glad to be with you today, and I'm glad that you're with us. Just a quick intro to Mark Wickersham, and Emily Cross will be joining us a little later. Mark, expert in AI, ChatGPT, and he's going to actually take it further in the introduction and tell us what he does. I'm looking forward to a good afternoon, and as I say, welcome. Thanks for joining us, and Mark, the floor's yours.
Thank you for that introduction, and welcome everyone. So we're going to spend the next few hours talking about what I think is a huge opportunity in the accounting profession, and thank you for that introduction and telling me and saying that I'm an expert in ChatGPT and AI, which I'm not sure whether I am or not. So let me just tell you a little bit more about me. I am from the UK, which you can perhaps tell from the accent, although I live in Portugal now. I am a chartered accountant. I've been in the profession for way over 30 years now. It was way back in 1988. I left university in the UK, went to work for a large multi-partner firm in Sheffield in the middle of the UK, spent 3 years on my training contract, qualified as a chartered accountant. I then spent the next few years in their tax department, became their corporation tax manager. So tax was my thing for many years. And then in 1996, I decided to start my own accounting firm. I had no clients. I just had a spare bedroom. I went and bought a desk, I bought a computer, and I started my own accounting firm in May 1996. And for the next 2.5 years, I made so many mistakes. I made every mistake you could possibly imagine in the accounting firm. I grew crazy fast. I went from 0 to 200 clients in just over 2 years. I moved into my first offices. I outgrew those, moved into bigger premises, hired a whole bunch of people, and it looked like I was doing very well. But I was struggling. I had crazy debts. I was struggling to make ends meet. And I realized by the end of 1998, 2.5 years in, that I'd made so many mistakes. I came across value pricing. I figured out and realized that I was pricing the wrong way. I was way too cheap. And so I started changing the way I priced. I also discovered the importance of business advisory, which we might touch on today. I started moving away from compliance and doing advisory work for clients and value pricing that work. And my practice turned around. I was then asked to be a guest speaker at various events in the UK. And since the year 2000, I've been teaching accountants the things that I do. I sold my accounting firm a few years later to the client managers. Steve and Jonathan bought it. I still think it exists today outside Sheffield. I think they've kept the name. It's called Wickersham's. It's still going. But I've spent the last 20 odd years now teaching the profession, primarily value pricing. That's what I'm known for. I've written many books on value pricing, and so that's always been my thing. I run the Value Pricing Academy. I work with accountants around the world, mainly in the US, Canada, the UK, and South Africa, teaching value pricing and teaching how to build a more successful accounting business. So I didn't really get into ChatGPT until the start of this year. And because I think we're going to look back in the future at November of last year as being a pivotal moment in the world, because something big happened in November of last year, which I think is going to have a huge impact on us over the next few years, on us in both the personal life, but also in our accounting firms. And that's all around the pace of change, what's happening in the world of AI right now, large language models, ChatGPT. So we're going to get into that. I think it's a huge opportunity for us. Some people view it as a threat, and it can be, but I do think there are huge opportunities. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to look at how we can use ChatGPT to save hours of time, hours and hours of time. And we're going to look at lots of practical examples. But I'm also going to share with you the pitfalls to avoid, because there are some problems with ChatGPT that we must be aware of so we avoid getting sued. Okay, we don't want that. So we need to be aware of its shortcomings, its weaknesses. We're going to talk specifically about the weakness, the problem of hallucination, and why that's a big issue. And then I'll talk a bit about prompt engineering and why that is the new skill that we need to master. In this AI world we live in, prompt engineering is going to become so important. So we're going to look at that. And then I'm going to get practical and take you through. We're going to go into ChatGPT, and I'm going to show you some different ways that you can use it, some practical use cases, things that you can do in your accounting firm. That'll take it up to roughly the 90-minute mark. I will also be answering questions. I will then hand over to our co-host, my other speaker, Emily. Emma's going to do the second half, and she's going to go through more use cases, different ways. We're going to make it really practical, how to use it. She'll also talk about some of the advanced things that you can do and some other fascinating things. So we've got lots of stuff to cover over the next 3 hours. I will have some slides, so don't worry. I often present to webcam, but I do have some slides, and in particular, we'll get across to ChatGPT later. Roughly half of our session today will be practical with ChatGPT. But also, I want to make sure that I answer your questions. So please, if you have any comments to make, please feel free to type away in the chat box. And so it would be great to give you a few shout outs, like if you put something interesting in the chat. But if you have any questions as well, ask questions. I do recommend that if you have a question, use the Q&A box. The reason for that is sometimes on my webinars, when the chat gets going, people start chatting away, and that's great. I love people chatting. I don't always see questions in the chat box, so I will definitely answer your question if you put it in the Q&A box. So Q&A for questions, but please feel free to use the chat box to make any sort of comment that you want. And the same when Emily picks up later on, she will be answering questions as well. So anything we cover that you want further clarification, if something doesn't make sense, please just put the question in the question box and we will answer it as best we can. I'll probably pause 2 or 3 times during the session to see what questions have come in. Okay, so with that said, I think we can dive in. I do have a few resources for you as well, which I'll be putting into the chat box. So I want to start off, I think just to gauge the level of where you're at with ChatGPT, it'd be good to run a quick poll. So if we could pull up the poll question, if that's okay. Yes, I can see it now. So which of these, think about ChatGPT. Do you have maybe you don't even have an account yet. So that's the first one. Or perhaps you have an account with ChatGPT, but you're just playing around with it, just messing around with it. Or perhaps you're a bit more serious, you use it every week. Perhaps it's even every day. Perhaps you're a big user of ChatGPT, and perhaps you consider yourself an advanced user and you have upgraded to ChatGPT Plus, which is the paid account. So which one best applies to you? I can't see the votes at my end, so I will ask, I'll ask if once we've got enough votes in, if
we're getting we're getting a few answers. We're about 60% answered so far.
Okay.
Let me give it a couple of minutes. A lot
Perfect. Happy for you to, when you feel we've got enough, then just feel free to just close it whenever you want and show the results. And it'll be interesting for me just to see what level everybody is at. And so while that's taking place, while we're just finishing off the poll, let me just give you a quick brief overview. So I said that the world has changed fundamentally last November. That's a big shift. And the reason for that was, if we go back to 2015, that was when OpenAI was founded. OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT. It was founded by a bunch of entrepreneurs who collectively invested $1 billion. And they included, probably the most well-known was Elon Musk. He was one of the founders. Probably the most well-known current founder is Sam Altman. And they created this large language model, ChatGPT. Now, Elon Musk fell out with them in 2018. The reason he cited at the time was problems with Tesla. He had to go and fix the Tesla problems, so he left in 2018. But I think there was a bit of a falling out in terms of the direction it was going in. Anyway, it was made publicly available in November 2022. And that's where everything starts to change. So let me just address the poll before we then move on to the rest of the story, what's happened since November 2022. So as I can see from the poll, 64% of you do not have an account yet, which doesn't surprise me. I've done lots of webinars over the last few months, and I tend to find it is about 60% of people I talk to don't even have an account. And then of the rest, most people are just playing around with it. So we don't have anybody, I don't think, who's an advanced user. And only a few of you, actually one person I think, is using it every single day. So what I'm going to do in this session in the first 90 minutes is I'm only going to look at things that you can do with the free account. When Emily does the second half, she will also be looking at the free account, but she'll start to look at some of the advanced things you can do with it as well. So given the fact that many of you don't have an account yet, we will keep it at a fairly entry level, but as you will see, there is some really powerful stuff that you can do with a free account. If you are one of the 60-odd% who don't have a free account, I do have some videos that will help you, because I'm hoping my goal by the end of today, everybody here will want to go make sure you've got your ChatGPT account, because the power is extraordinary what it can do. So I have some videos that might be useful. If you're one of the 60-odd% that doesn't have an account, Emily and I did a recent video on our YouTube channel, which was a step-by-step guide to setting up ChatGPT. If you have a smartphone to hand and you turn the camera on, you could use that QR code and that will open up that particular video. So that will walk you through the process of setting up the account. I'm going to put all the links, by the way, into the chat box in a second. So if you haven't got your smartphone, don't worry, I'm going to give you the links. Don't need to write down what's on the bottom of that screen. If you have got an account, though, a couple of other videos you might want to check out. Emily and I often do live streams every 2 weeks about ChatGPT. They're 60-minute live streams on my YouTube channel. And this one, a recent one, we went through the top 10 features of ChatGPT. So you might find this one useful if you want to get to understand some of the things that you can do with it, some of the features that they've particularly introduced in the last month or so. So that's a great one that you might want to check out. And the third and last one is, once you've got an account, this is a video I did. We're giving you 5 ideas of things that you could use in your accounting firm. Some of these we might cover in the session today. Some of them may be other ones that will give you some other inspiration. So I'm also just going to put those links into the chat box right now, so you can save those links for later. They should be in there. Okay, so there's 3 videos that may help you with getting up to speed with ChatGPT. So let's go back. So November was when they released ChatGPT to the public. And that's when everything changed. It was the fastest platform to ever hit 100 million users. The previous one was TikTok. It thrashed the record, 100 million users in record time. It grew so fast that in January of this year, Microsoft decided to invest $10 billion in OpenAI. And the reason they did that is because, as you perhaps know, until the start of this year, everyone thought Bing as a search engine was a bit of a dinosaur, but Microsoft saw the potential of building in OpenAI's ChatGPT into Bing, and that's what they did at the start of the year. And that created a huge panic with Google, because suddenly people were thinking Google is now going to be redundant. And so Google, who was also working on their own large language model, they ended up releasing it too early. It wasn't ready. I think it was end of February, early March, they released their version. It's called Bard. And it was an embarrassment at first because it got lots of things wrong. And people did say, employees did say, we shouldn't have launched it. It was too early. But they had to react because of what Microsoft and OpenAI were doing. Now, this has then created a huge increase in the development of AI tools. Now, I talk about large language models because what ChatGPT is a large language model. It's text-based. It looks at language patterns. There are many other AI tools that have just gone crazy this year. There are tools like Midjourney for images. There are tools for automating doing videos. We're not going to touch on those because they're of limited interest to the accounting profession. But something is changing every single week. The pace of change right now, things are changing weekly that would have perhaps 2 years ago would have been at most monthly or quarterly. There is new stuff coming out all the time. And it's quite scary in some respects, but it also opens up a huge opportunity. We found that it was March, ChatGPT or OpenAI launched ChatGPT 4, which is their more advanced model. So there were two models. There's 3.5, which is the free one, and ChatGPT 4 is the more advanced one for plus users. It is a better model, but as you'll see today, you could do some great stuff with the free one. And I mentioned Google launched their equivalent. We've seen many other people launching their large language models. There is Claude by Anthropic, is a very good large language model. A couple of months back, Facebook Meta launched theirs, Llama 2, and theirs is a bit different because it's open source. And then I saw reported recently that Apple are working on theirs. They were strangely quiet at their event last week about AI. I was very surprised that Apple seemed to be lagging behind, but I have heard that Apple are going to launch something that they believe is even more powerful than ChatGPT 4. So it's changing so fast. However, we always stick with ChatGPT 4 because particularly with 4.0, it's largely, in all the tests that have been done, it is the better of the models at the moment. It may be a different story a year from now. We might be doing a webinar on Bard or Llama or something else. Elon Musk is reportedly going to introduce his one soon. Who knows? But ChatGPT is extraordinary what it can do. So what is ChatGPT? I think the best way to think of it is this. Think of ChatGPT as being your new hire, your latest employee. And we're going to go into ChatGPT, and you'll see this in action soon. Just like an employee, you can have a conversation with it. And the key difference between a large language model like ChatGPT and a more traditional search engine is with a search engine, you ask a question, it gives you some stuff. But then the next question you ask is independent. It doesn't know what your previous search was. Whereas with a large language model like ChatGPT, you can carry on a conversation. It knows what the previous prompts were that you gave it, the previous questions you asked, and it knows its previous answers. So it learns, which is fascinating. So think of it as your assistant. Think of it as your new hire, somebody you can go away and do work for you. But where it excels is that there are problems with humans. Humans are unreliable. Some of the problems of humans, of course, is that, first of all, they're not there all the time. They do things like they take vacations, they take the weekend off, they go home at night. So if you want somebody to do something at the weekend, well, they've gone away for the weekend. So you can't delegate to a human then. So they're unreliable from that point of view. Secondly, humans do make mistakes. We often make mistakes. And yes, whilst ChatGPT does as well, it's not as bad as sometimes with humans. And the other things is we are so slow. We take forever to do things in comparison with ChatGPT. You can feed ChatGPT a 20-page document and ask it to summarize it. And whilst it might take a human a full day to read that 20-page document and create a summary, ChatGPT can do it in a matter of seconds. It's extraordinary, the speed at which you can do stuff. So think of it as a new hire, and the big benefits of it are really, the biggest benefit is going to save you time, hours and hours of time. And one of the things we might talk about later, or Emily might, is why you might want to think about upgrading to ChatGPT Plus. You don't need to, but it's only $20 plus tax a month, which is tiny when you start becoming a power user, when you realize the time it will save you. And ultimately, it may save you costs as well, because it maybe you don't have to hire as many people. So it's going to, and that's one of the big issues that people are talking about right now, is this is moving so fast that it will start making people redundant. You may have heard there's been a lot of stories and predictions about ChatGPT and AI will replace up to 300 million jobs, which is quite scary. And I know Sam Altman was back in June, was in front of Congress in the US, arguing that they should put some controls in place and create a brand new agency to monitor the pace of development of AI. And one of the reasons for that was because it's likely to replace jobs so fast that society can't keep up. And as you start to study what we can do with AI these days, you will start to see that a lot of jobs have become absolutely redundant, and potentially accountants, bookkeepers are right up on that list. So are copywriters. Copywriting is an extremely skilled job that copywriters can charge six-figure sums, $100,000 for writing a piece of copy. And now you can get ChatGPT to do it in the style of any famous copywriter in seconds. So copywriters are in trouble. Artists are in trouble. Musicians are in trouble. There is so many people whose jobs are at risk. And whilst that might sound scary, I'm a big believer in it's not AI that's going to replace you. It's going to be how your competitors use AI. And what I mean by that is, if you're a forward-thinking accounting firm and are willing to embrace what's taking place right now, there are huge opportunities. I think it's an exciting time to be in the accounting profession. But this is something you can't ignore. This is coming, and it's coming fast. So what are some of the things that you can do with ChatGPT? It can save you huge amounts of time. And what we're going to do is show you some practical use cases in this session today. But let me just give you a few ways that you can use it. So ChatGPT is brilliant at ideation or brainstorming. If you just want to bounce some ideas off somebody, if you want some help with creating a strategy, if you want some ideas for creating an article or a blog post, it's brilliant at coming up with great ideas. And I think Emily's going to talk about that a little bit more in the second half and show you exactly how you can use it for brainstorming, for creating ideas. It's brilliant for summarization, for shortening things. For example, if you come across somebody giving you a great business book to read, and you just haven't got the time to read the whole business book, it can summarize things really quickly and really well. I've used it for book summaries. If you come across a video on YouTube you can't be bothered to watch, you just want to summarize a summary of it, it can summarize it in seconds. So summarizing text is another great strength of ChatGPT. Another great way that'll save you time is it's brilliant at content creation, writing, which for many of us as accountants, we struggle a bit with writing. I'm an author, but even that, I still use ChatGPT now to help me with content creation. So that could be you wanted to help you to craft an email, you wanted to help you craft social media posts, perhaps you want some help with writing an article, creating a report for a client, perhaps as part of your marketing. And one of the things that we find is that ChatGPT is particularly good for marketing. It's really powerful and it will save you hours of time. And I know that most accountants and bookkeepers don't like marketing. It's not our core strength, but we must do it to grow our firms. Well, this will become your best marketing expert at your fingertips. And I think Emily will probably touch on that more with some of the practical ways that you can use it. You can use it for any form of text analysis, anything to do with text. You can get it to analyze in all sorts of interesting ways, but it's not just text, because we're accountants, we like numbers. It's also great at data analysis, analyzing numbers, Excel spreadsheets, CSV files, and we'll talk about that again in a few minutes, and I'll show you how you can analyze an Excel spreadsheet in a little while. So that's coming up soon. So there's just 5 great ways of using ChatGPT. There are many, many more. I think that Emily will probably pick up on some in her session as well that I've not covered. But we must be aware of its shortcomings. We must be aware of the weaknesses, the pitfalls of ChatGPT. It's not perfect, but it's developing fast. It's overcoming these things quickly, but it's still not perfect. It's not going to replace you just yet. That's the good news. We have to understand its limitations. So let me just run through some of the key ones just to be careful of. So one of the things that accountants are particularly worried about is this whole issue of confidentiality and privacy. And I know that worries people. In fact, this was a big issue back in April of this year. And in April, Italy banned ChatGPT. They banned it, which was a shame because I happened to be traveling to Venice at the time to start a cruise and I couldn't get onto ChatGPT. So yes, I found out firsthand it was banned in Italy. And the biggest reason that Italy banned it was this worry over confidentiality and privacy. And then the EU started looking into this, and then the US started looking into this, and Italy made some demands of OpenAI, and OpenAI were very good. They dealt with it very quickly. They made some changes and improved the confidentiality, the privacy. And I think it's now, they dealt with all the Italians' issues, and I think that by May, it was back and available again. So we have to be careful of it, partly because of client confidentiality is a particular issue. And one of the things that when they released it in November, one of the reasons for releasing it to the public was because they want the public to train it, which I'm a big fan of. I want to be able to control the direction it goes in. I want to use it and it to get better and better and better. But one of the things they introduced as a result of Italy was they introduced into the settings the ability to turn on a privacy mode, which means that you are not training the model. And you can do that if you want. Personally, I don't recommend it because what happens is when you turn privacy on is it won't save your chats for more than 30 days. And I use it all the time and I go back to old chats. So I think that when it comes to confidentiality and privacy, the key thing is to use common sense. And the advice I always give is when you put something into ChatGPT, ask yourself the question, would I be happy to share this on social media? And if you are, then you'd be happy to share it on ChatGPT. But you might want to, when you're giving it information, like, for example, data from an Excel spreadsheet, you might want to make sure you have anonymized it. Remove the client's name. That's just good practice, okay? So I would recommend you try and make all of your data you feed it anonymous data. So that's one issue. Another one is it's not good at math. Now, this was something people talked a lot about in the early days. I saw lots of people saying it will never replace accountants. It can't do math. Well, that's sort of true. It's actually pretty good at math. It's pretty good. It's just complex math it can't do. And so people seem to miss that. It wasn't great at complex math, but simple math it was good at. However, they then introduced in July their own plugin called Code Interpreter, which have now renamed Advanced Data Analytics or Analysis, and that is extraordinarily good at math. And it may be that later on, Emily might talk a little bit about that. You have to be a ChatGPT Plus user to use it. But it's definitely worth getting, because the advanced data analysis does some really powerful stuff with things like Excel spreadsheets. If you want to go deeper on analyzing client data, then that's an amazing tool. But as you'll soon see, you can still do some great stuff with the free account. Let me just quickly, as a bit of fun, demonstrate the math issue. So I went into ChatGPT and I asked it, what is 15.37 times 1,867.2? And it said the product of those two numbers is 28,707.264. I got my calculator out, being an accountant, and that's not right. So I said, are you sure? It said, I apologize for the mistake. Let me recalculate that for you, which it did. Tell me the different number. That wasn't the right number. So I then said, are you sure it isn't 28,698.864? And it then went on to say, I apologize for the confusion in my previous response. You are correct. The correct result of multiplying those two together is, thank you for spotting and pointing out the mistake. So I share that with you just as a fun example that ChatGPT is not great at complex math. So whilst it's great with math, with simple math, you should use you're an accountant. If you use ChatGPT for anything to do with numbers, you should double check it, okay? Please double check it. This is why accountants aren't going to be redundant, because we need to provide our own expert judgment and double check things. So just be aware of that. It's not great at complex math. But then that's not true if you then start to use things like advanced data analysis, which, as I said, Emily might mention later. Number three, the third pitfall is human bias. And this has a number of angles to it, but I'll keep it simple for now. It's not always right. Why? Because ChatGPT, and the same with all large language models, are trained on information in the first place. And that is information it got from the internet. Well, the internet isn't always correct. Even things like Wikipedia, they've been compiled by humans, completing the Wikipedia entries. And it's not always 100% right. We can't always take everything that we see from a Google search as being correct. And so we have this human bias in, this potential incorrect because of the data it was trained on. But secondly, there's a second aspect to this. When they trained the model, when they trained it, what they would do is feed thousands and thousands of questions of ChatGPT, which ChatGPT would work out the answer to, and then the human would then say whether it was right or not, and it would learn from that. But sometimes a human might say that's the right answer, and it wasn't the right answer, or vice versa. So we have to bear in mind it might not be correct because it's been created by humans. Now, more important, I think, is this fourth one, hallucination. So this is an interesting one. If you've not heard of this, it is a common term in large language models. Hallucination means that if ChatGPT, and this is the same with Llama and with Google's Bard, if a large language model doesn't know the answer to something, it will often make it up, and make it up in a way that's very convincing. So we have to be aware of hallucination. Now, in tests of all the different models, it's been reported that ChatGPT 4 is the best one when it comes to, it's the least, it hallucinates the least. So it is the better model, but we have to be aware of it. And going back to that example I just shared with you, it's a good example because not only is it not good at math, but it's very confident in giving you the right answer. In the first prompt was, it was confident. I said, are you sure? And it said, I apologize for the mistake. Let me recalculate it for you. It was really confident that it's the right answer, until I then pointed out, no, it's not the right answer. And it then apologized. And an interesting case of this is back in June, there was a case in the US that was reported on first I saw it on the UK BBC News website, of a US lawyer was preparing for a court case. It was something in the airline industry. The lawyer was preparing their arguments to present in court. And the lawyer was going away on holiday, on vacation. And so they delegated to an employee in the legal firm to finish off the work of pulling together the arguments. And the employee had heard of ChatGPT and decided to get ChatGPT to help. And you're probably aware that in legal cases, a lot of law is based on case law. In other words, citing previous cases and the outcome. So when the lawyer got back from vacation, his holiday, he got this report from his team member that looked fantastic. He went to court to argue the cases, and throughout the court, he was quoting various legal cases to support his argument. And every now and then the judge or the lawyer on the other side would say, "I've never heard of that legal case. Can you tell me where it comes from?" And it turned out that most, if not all, of the legal cases were made up, completely made up. And it was interesting following that story because I was a bit surprised that the judge only fined the legal firm €4,600, which I thought they got away with quite well on that. But the interesting part of the story is the judge also said to the lawyer that he had to go to every single judge that was mentioned and cited in those legal cases and apologize. So it was probably an embarrassing outcome for the lawyer, but they could have been sued for that. And that's why I say that you must be aware of hallucination. Sometimes it makes stuff up and it is convincing. And so that might be the case with things like if it gives you research reports, if it gives you cases, if it gives you tax cases, if you're using it to perhaps argue some tax stuff, it will come across sometimes as thinking it's right in a very convincing way. So we just have to be aware of that. It's getting better. And for most of the things that I will recommend that you use it for, hallucination isn't a big problem, but be aware of it. And then the final one, the 5, is poor prompting. This is this idea that garbage in equals garbage out. If you get a rubbish response, the reason is probably because your prompt wasn't good in the first place. And this is just the same with when we're dealing with humans, new hires. When you delegate a piece of work to somebody in your office, perhaps you've got a brand new person working for your firm and you ask them to go and reconcile a bank account and they come back and it's complete garbage. It's rubbish. We often blame the employee because they've done it wrong. But very often it's our fault because we didn't properly explain what to do. And that's the same with working with ChatGPT. We have to learn how to better communicate what it is that we want it to do to get a better answer. Better questions will result in better answers. And that's why prompt engineering is fast becoming the most important skill. In fact, there have been, I don't know if you're aware, but in the US, there are companies willing to pay up to salaries of up to $300,000 for prompt engineers. This is how important this skill is rated. There's also been research showing that increasingly when people are looking to hire, that they're looking for employees with skills in AI and prompt engineering. And it makes perfect sense for me because I wouldn't want to employ anybody in my business who didn't understand how to use these tools because it's going to save them so much time and make them more efficient. So in our business, for example, I have Emily and 2 of my daughters, and the 3 of them and me, we take 1 day off every week just to explore ChatGPT and AI and how we can use it because it's extraordinary the time it saves us in our business. So we have to learn prompt engineering. And so what that means is we have to figure out the right way to craft our prompts. And I'm going to give you a prompt formula because we could say something really simple and say, give me an idea for, I want to do a blog post, give me an idea for a blog post. And it will give you an idea for a blog post. And it will probably be absolutely rubbish for you because you've not given it enough information. It might come back and say, you could write a blog post on how to explore the moon, which is no good to an accounting firm because we've not given enough information. So something that you might find useful is to think of this as a prompt formula. And I'm going to go into ChatGPT in just a couple of minutes now and start to show you what I mean by this. So the first thing to think about is when you are crafting a prompt for a client, you want to tell ChatGPT, a prompt for ChatGPT, you want to tell it the persona. What role is it playing? And there's been research around this that the default role of ChatGPT is a personal assistant. And so when you ask it a question, it will answer as a personal assistant, which is great. But if we give it a different role, like, for example, we wanted to play the role of a business consultant, the answers it gives us will be different and better if we're looking for insights for business advisory. So persona is really important. Then context is really important. Context is some background information. We want to give it, but the more background information we give it, the better response we'll get. You'll see lots of examples of that coming up. Then, of course, we tell it what to do. The task is the obvious bit. The task is write me an email, create me a blog post, give me 10 ideas for whatever. That's the task. That's the easy bit. So, of course, we'll have a task. We'll ask it to do something. But then another thing that you may want to do is an exemplar, giving it an example or telling it the format of your response, how it wants to be laid out, what it wants to be included in it. Giving examples gets a much better response. I'll give you some examples myself of how you might do that. Then you might want to think about the formatting of the output. What do you want it to create? Because if you ask it to write an email for you, the style of writing will be very different to if you ask it to write a Facebook post. So you need to be clear on the format. And then finally, the tone and the style that you want it in. So they're 6 key elements to think about in your prompts. So we're going to go into prompts in a second. I think, what should we do next? I'm just checking there's no questions. Before I dive, I'm going to into ChatGPT. Before I do that, a couple of things for you. There is a comment from Jeremy I will read as well in a second. A couple of things for you. Emily and I wrote an ebook on ChatGPT. There's probably loads of stuff in there that we won't cover today. So if you want a written guide to ChatGPT and how you can use it in your firm, then again, there's a QR code on the screen if you have a smartphone, or I'm going to put the link in the chat box right now. So grab that free report. If you miss the QR code, Emily will probably remind you later on. So you might want to, during the 5-minute break, grab your smartphone to grab QR codes. And also, if you, I talked about how I'm known for teaching pricing. If you want help with your pricing, we are running in 2 weeks' time a 3-day virtual conference. And if you're interested in coming to that virtual conference, I will put a link into the chat box and again, a QR code on the screen. And Emily might remind you later. Okay, let's now get into the practical bit. Let's now talk about ChatGPT. There was a comment from Jeremy first, though, so no questions, but a comment. So Jeremy says, I got ChatGPT to review a website that I'd written. Within seconds, I had a really good review. Awesome, well done. I implemented the suggestions, got it to a further review, and it picked up from where it left off on the first review. So I ended up with a much better website. Jeremy, thanks for sharing that. That's a great way to use it, getting to review something you've already done. Really powerful. Okay, let's dive across now. I'm going to go to screen share for this. Screen share, ChatGPT. Here we go. So if you haven't got your account yet, I shared that link earlier to a video. So make sure you watch that afterwards. So here is ChatGPT. This is what it looks like. Actually, it looks more like this. There is a sidebar. They introduced the ability to hide the sidebar. The sidebar contains all of your past chats. You'll see I use it a lot. There are loads here. So you can start a new conversation. Generally speaking, you will keep within one chat because it learns during the course of a chat. So if you would use one chat for something that's related, but if you're doing a brand new task, then you might start a brand new chat. In the very bottom left, that's where you'll find the 3 next to your name and your image. There are 3 dots, and that's where you have a number of settings, and that's where you can upgrade to ChatGPT Plus. I won't talk about that now, but I might pick up on a few other things as we go through. And I know Emily will pick up on a few things as well. Let me just, though, close that. On the right-hand side, then, when you start a brand new chat, at the bottom, where it says send a message, that's where you would put your prompt. You will find with the free account, it will just be ChatGPT 3.5. If you upgrade to the Plus account, then you have the option to use ChatGPT 4, you get advanced data analysis, you get plugins. Emily might cover that towards the end of her session. I want to keep with the free stuff now, which is the ChatGPT 3.5. They recently introduced at the bottom, they give you some suggested prompts and things that you can use to get started. I personally find those pretty useless. And also, they're not necessarily great prompts. I strongly recommend that you just learn the art of prompt engineering and learn how to craft great prompts. So I am going to do, what should we do first? Let's look at something that's relevant to you as accountants, which is, let's imagine that you use a cloud accounting system like QBO, for example. It could be Xero, it could be Sage. You have a brand new client, and it's a client that's in an industry that you are perhaps not that familiar with, and you want to create a chart of accounts. And the likes of QBO and Xero, they have their default standard chart of accounts. But as you know, as an accountant, we want to make the chart of accounts be relevant to the specific business. So one of the things we can do is we can get ChatGPT to help us create a chart of accounts. So one of the things that you might do is use a prompt like this. I'm going to just cut and paste it because I'm a slow typer. I've already got these pre-set up. I'll just cut and paste it in. So it says here, could you generate a table representing a chart of accounts specific to a business type, trading as entity type based in country? The chart of accounts should be compatible with QuickBooks Online. If you use Xero, for example, change that to Xero, and should utilize QBO's account type and detail type categories. The table should have columns for account name, account type, and detail type. So one of the things you'll see is that you can get ChatGPT to output in tables. It's great. If you want a table, it can do that. Now, you might be asking, why have I put business type in square brackets? Why didn't I just put the business in there? Why entity type in square brackets? And why country? And the only reason for that is because what you might want to start doing is the more you use it in your firm, you might want to start creating template prompts, standard prompts that you use. And so if you do lots of charts of accounts and you like this prompt, this could be the template one that you use every single time. And then you just have business type : country : entity type : and then all you'd need to do each time is just enter these last three bits, just answer these questions effectively. So let's say I have a client that's a painting and decorating business. The country is South Africa, probably will be for you by default, and they're a sole proprietor. Then I can run this prompt. If instead I have another one I want to do for a client that's a legal firm, I just change that to legal firm. So that's why you can do it that way. You can create these bits in square brackets. So let's do that. Let's just hit the button and send the message, and let's see what it comes up with. And now you can see how fast it works. I told you that humans are slow in comparison to the speed of ChatGPT. It's extraordinary how quick it can work. Just like that. That was it. Okay. So we have now a table as of a chart of accounts. It might not be perfect, and you might use your expertise as an accountant and change it, but we can see that it's a painter and decorating business. So as we'd probably expect, we have got materials and material supplies. We've got the sort of expenses we might expect. We've also got, what else in there? It seems okay to me. There's a few things, I'm an accountant, I think there's a few things missing there. But nevertheless, it might be a good starting point. If you don't like it, it's not given the right answer, then just like saying to an employee, that's not your best work, please do it again, then what you can do is you can either give it another prompt and say, that was great, but can you please give me some more codes, some more categories, and it will then redo it. So you can ask it to redo it, or you can hit this regenerate button, which is useful. If I hit regenerate, it will then just do the job again and come up with a different list. And then what you can do, if you use regenerate, it'll give you a different list, but also, and it'll ask you whether it's better or worse, because if you want to, you can train the model. But when you regenerate, you'll see over here, you've got 2 out of 2. Because what you can now do, it doesn't forget the first answer. When you regenerate, we can scroll through and look at both, and you could take the best bits of both. And then because it's a table, if you like this, you could then copy, just grab the table, cut and paste it into Excel, and then from Excel, you can upload it into QBO. So there's one thing you might want to play around with, using it to come up with a chart of accounts, if that's something that you might find useful. Okay, let me look at something completely different. Question coming from Carl. Let me answer that. Carl says, is your prompt for the chart of accounts, sorry, in your prompt, you didn't specify a persona. Was this intentional, implied? You are absolutely correct, Carl. I didn't, because I'm going to illustrate some examples of good prompts and less good prompts. So this could be a better prompt. Absolutely, it could. So sometimes for these demonstrations, I was really demonstrating an idea, something you could use, but absolutely, that would be a better prompt if you said, act as a financial accountant, and put that at the start. Thank you, Carl. Great point. In fact, I'll illustrate that with my next use case. So another thing that you might want to do is, it's quite cool for answering client emails. Emily might touch on this later as well, but let's imagine sometimes we get those emails that we're just not sure how to answer. For example, a client complaint. So for this, I'm going to actually start a brand new chat. I'm actually going to delete that one. You can delete your chats. There's a little delete next to it. So I'm going to delete that one now, the chart of accounts. And I'm going to start a brand new chat, hide that. I'm on 3.5. So let me show you something else. Let me go Control C. So it's a long one, this, you'll see why. It says, you are the owner of an accounting firm. So this time, Carl, I am giving the persona. You are the owner of an accounting firm. Write an email response to the following complaint my accounting firm has received from a client. And then all I've done is I've just copied and pasted it into, it's a fictional one, but an email. So I have an email that's come from a client. You may get these from time to time. It's a client that says, good morning, Mark. I'm writing to express my growing concern and frustration regarding the delay in completing my end of year financial statements. He goes on to say he's been a loyal client for 6 years. He's always been satisfied with the work before, but recently he's been disappointed. He then says that during the initial consultation, I promised that it would take 4 weeks to do his financial statements. And that was 6 weeks ago when I started. He's also saying as well, I'm disheartened to discover that the fee quoted for this year's service is 20% higher than what I paid in the previous year. I'm a long-standing client. I didn't expect such a big fee increase. So perhaps you've had an email like this where someone's complaining it's taking too long and your price has gone up too high. How do you answer that? Well, if you're not sure, we could just simply have a prompt that says, write an email response to the following complaint my firm has received. And if we hit that button now, it's going to go away and it's now writing a possible response. So here it goes. And I'm not going to read all this to you, but if I go back to this, I'll just read the first bit out. So it's come up with an email for me. Dear client, I hope this email finds you well. First and foremost, I would like to express my sincere apologies for the delay in completing your end of year financial statements. So quite nicely worded. I quite like that starting point, but it's quite a long email. And one of the things that, I think is a bit long. It's quite well written. It's a bit long. Also, I've not read it yet, but it's probably fairly, yeah, let's look at this. I understand that the magnitude of the fee increase was unexpected, and I apologize for any discomfort it may have caused. We value your feedback and will strive to improve our communication in the future to ensure you have clear understanding of the pricing structure in our services. I mean, it's an okay generic response, but we probably wanted it to an email that explains a bit more about why the price went up by 20% and why the delay in 6 weeks. And the problem is we've not given any context. I said to you in the prompt formula, context is so powerful. And what we've also not done in this is we've not done anything about the writing style. So it is a bit long. It's a bit long. So we can do a better prompt, a much better prompt. So let me just grab this. Just bear a second. So now I'm going to come back and say, Okay, it's a longer prompt this time. Whoops, I went too fast. I hit the return button. Sorry, let me just go back. I didn't mean to hit return. I've now said, please now write that email again, taking into account each of the following. And so what I've done here, and the way I've laid this out, just to give you an example of a layout, by laying it out like this, it kind of forces, you can create a template where it forces you to use elements of that formula. So I'm telling it, I'm confirming I want the output type to be an email. I'm saying I want the length to be less than 400 words, because sometimes it can just waffle on for ages. So it's great for, I said, summarizing text. If you want it to be shorter, it's great at shortening things. It's great at lengthening things. I might want the format to have some subheadings so it's easier to read. I might want the tone to be friendly and empathetic. And I also want the style to be professional and conversational. So writing tone and writing style when you're creating written stuff is really important. I've also said, in this case, desired outcomes. I want a happy client who wants to continue working for our firm. So I want the email to make sure we don't lose the client. You might have, it might be, the output might be, I want the client to bugger off and go somewhere else. And therefore it might be worded in a different way. So that's the outcome I want. And then I've got some more context. Now I know this is long, but I wanted to explain, I want to say that the fact is we emailed the client 3 weeks ago asking for clarification on some items of credit card expenses, which seem personal in nature. The client hasn't responded yet, which is why it's gone beyond 4 weeks. And I also said in our fixed fee agreement, we also explained why the price went up. And it went up because the client had now got overseas trading, which they never had before. And so there's more work reconciling those sorts of transactions in multiple currencies. So if you just give a little bit of information to ChatGPT, you will get a better email. So if we look at this straight away, it's shorter. It's broken up with some headings. I hope this message finds you well, but then it says delay in financial statements. I sincerely apologize for the delay in completing your end of year financial statements. As you may recall, we emailed you 3 weeks ago seeking clarification on certain credit card expenses that appeared to have personal elements. Unfortunately, we did not receive a response, which has been a critical factor contributing to the delay. Our original agreement, which you signed, stipulates that we would guarantee completion within 4 weeks, provided we receive timely responses to our queries. I understand this delay has caused inconvenience and I deeply regret it. So that's a much better answer because we've given it some reasons why it's taken 6 weeks. And likewise with the fee increase, this is much better worded. Regarding the 20% increase in fees for this year's services, I want to clarify that this adjustment was communicated when we initially discussed the fee. The increase is due to significant growth in your business over the past 2 years, including international trade activities, etc. I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty well worded email. And to write that, a difficult email like that, dealing with a client complaint, sometimes you could spend an hour trying to craft the right words. And instead you could just give a prompt like this that might take 5 minutes and it's going to take a lot of the hard work out. It might not be perfect, but it could give you a great starting point for an email to a difficult complaint. And so that's going to lead me on to just another thing that I want to mention is that, and I think Emily might mention it as well, is prompt engineering is really important. If we want to create written content, whether it's an email, a Facebook post, a blog post, writing an ebook, a report to a client, then the style of writing is really important. The tone of writing is really important because you can change those things. In fact, let me just show you an example. So I've said writing tone, friendly and empathetic. What if I said, now rewrite that email in a, I always struggle to spell it, humorous, a humorous tone, okay? Just changing the one thing about the prompt from friendly and empathetic to humorous, we can now get a different email and it says, let me go back. I hope this email finds you in good spirits, and if not, let's add a dash of humor to the mix. In the case of the missing credit card expenses, so about those elusive credit card expenses that seem to moonlight as personal purchases. So you can see it's given a very different style of writing with some humor in there. and you might like that. So one of the things that you want to do with your prompt engineering is bear in mind writing tone and writing style are so important. You want to figure out what's your writing tone, what's your style, what do you want to convey, because it can completely change the output of the responses. And one of the things that Emily might touch on later, I'm not going to go into it now, but one of the new things they introduced, and at this point, I'm hesitating whether it's available in South Africa. I'm not sure. It was originally just in the US and Canada, and a few weeks back, they opened it up to EU and the UK. So you might want to check this, but they recently introduced custom instructions. Now, this is an advanced feature. I don't think we'll cover it today, but Emily might look at it a little bit more. She might show you it. Custom instructions is a feature that allows you to give it information to apply. So you apply it to every single chat. So rather than every time you start a chat, you having to say, this is my writing style. I want you to write in a friendly tone of voice. I want you to write in a professional way. I want you to act as an accountant. All those things you can put into custom instructions, and every future chat, it will use your exact style of writing, your tone of voice. It's extraordinarily powerful, but it is an advanced feature, and I've turned it off for the purpose of this. I'm just using the default free version that you have straight away, because I want to illustrate how you can just change your prompt slightly and get different outputs and great outputs. Likewise, if you decide that's really good, but it's a bit too long, you could say, please write a shorter version of that. And it'll just redo it in seconds. That's why I said, think of it as an employee. You can just go backwards and forwards and say, go back and do that again. Have a go at doing it with a different style of writing. Try doing it in just 200 words. Okay, that was the second thing I wanted to show you. How are we doing for time? We have about 20 or so minutes. There's no question. By the way, if you want a question, ask. I was expecting more questions. I've only had Carl so far, but if you have a question, ask. Otherwise, I'll keep showing you stuff. So it's great for text stuff, text analysis, answering emails, creating content we've talked about. But it's also good with numbers up to a point, as long as we understand the limitations. It can understand Excel spreadsheets. So let's look at data analysis, which is, as accountants, this is probably a bit more exciting for us. So at this point, I'm going to have to do this in a slightly different way, just simply because I live stream and do webinars every single day. My computer I'm using right here is set up for live streaming, and I do not have any unnecessary software on it, like Office, like Excel. So normally what I do is when I do these demonstrations, I actually use a system on my machine where I can just go to another computer. But I sometimes using other people's Zoom accounts, it might be a bit blurry. So please don't worry if it's blurry. You do not need to see the numbers or anything. What I want to show you now, though, is that you can copy and paste Excel spreadsheets into ChatGPT. So I've got here, just for a fictional business, I have a profit and loss account with 2 years worth of data for the profit and loss account, and I have a balance sheet with comparatives. Okay, and what you can do is you can take those cells and highlight them like I've done. You can see I've highlighted them. You can do Control C to copy and then Control V to paste into ChatGPT. And the same with the P&L. You can do Control C and Control V and paste it into ChatGPT. So let me just go back to now the screen share version. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to start a brand new chat. Start a new chat. Okay, I want to do some data analysis. And here's my prompt. Okay, so we have here, I want you to play the role of a financial accountant. So there you go, there's the persona. I want you to be a financial accountant. I'm going to provide you with the profit and loss account and balance sheet for 2022 and the results for the previous year. So I'm telling it what I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it some information. Then context is really important. I wanted to do some analysis, but it helps if you give it some information about the business. So here is some context. Here is some background information about the business. It's a fully licensed high street fish restaurant. It's a made-up business, by the way, in Devon. It's in the UK. It's established in 2018. It has 40 covers and it's run by 2 owners who are the head chef and the front of house manager. The restaurant specializes in fresh fish, cooked to order, supplied from Bricks and Fish Market. The menus offer traditional British cuisine. The business has a 5-star food hygiene rating and is highly rated on TripAdvisor. It's just some context. Now you could, if you had a business plan for your client, you could feed it the business plan. There are lots of ways of giving context and background information. So there you go. I want you to be a financial accountant. I'm going to give you some financial statements, profit and loss balance sheet. There's a bit of detail about the business. And this is what I want you to do. This is the task. Please analyze the data and write a report in Markdown that sets out a summary of the results, any potential errors in the accounts that may require further analysis, whether there are areas of concern in the business and why they might be a problem, and your top 3 recommendations for the business. Now, you might do those as 4 separate prompts. I'm just being lazy and just doing it in one go, just to illustrate the sorts of things that we could ask it to look at in a set of financial data. So a summary, potential errors, areas of concern, recommendations for the business. Now, it says here, I want you to write a report in Markdown. So I said when it comes to a prompt, what's the format that you want to use? I want a report. If I change that to a social media post, it will be a very different style of output. And Markdown is a form that ChatGPT understands. There's a form of formatting that's used in HTML. So you may have, I don't know if you've come across it before. Essentially, it means that you've got heading 1 style, heading 2 style, heading 3 style, and heading 1 is denoted by having it's gone. The sharp character, what do you call it? Hash. The hash at the start and the end tells HTML, make that a heading 1 style. 2 asterisks at the start and the end says make it bold. Well, that's Markdown, and ChatGPT understands that. So you'll see in the output, we will see this this boldening and headings appear. So then I've got balance sheet : profit and loss account : Now, what I would normally do at this point in time, if I had Excel available on the computer I'm on now with the screen share, is I go into Excel, which is currently on this computer I'm now showing. I would go in and grab the balance sheet, Control-C, go back into ChatGPT, and I'd paste it in. But I haven't got Excel. So what I just need to do very quickly is, I did this the other day, and I have it here. Let me just Control-C, Control-V, Control-C, and let me just overwrite those with that. So the reason I've just done that is, so let's just have a quick recap. I wanted to play the role of a financial accountant. I'm going to give you some financial data. Here's the background on the business, and this is what I want you to do. Write a report with Markdown and cover these 4 areas. And then what I've done is I've cut and pasted into the Excel spreadsheet. Now, as you look at this, you might think that's just a bunch of garbage. It's not nicely formatted. It's just numbers and descriptors. Don't worry, ChatGPT understands that as coming from a CSV file or an Excel file. It makes sense of all of that. Even though it looks like garbage, it makes sense. And this, I think, is really powerful. This is just the free version. This is the free version. Let's see what it does. Okay, let's see. So let's send that message and off it goes. Let's just scroll down where it's got to. Here we go. It's off. Look, it's off and running. Look how fast it's analyzing this Excel spreadsheet and coming up with stuff. It's extraordinary. It just blows me away. And this is the free version. Emily's going to show you something even more powerful if you decide to go with ChatGPT Plus. But let's just go with this. You can see straight away we have the formatting built in there. It just looks nicely laid out like a report. And over to the right, this little clipboard icon. To the right, there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down, which is giving feedback on whether you like the response or not. That's if you want to train the model. But the clipboard is a copy board. It'll just copy that, and then you can paste it into a Word document or wherever you want it to go. Or if you prefer, the other thing you can do is you can grab it, hide it, Control-C, Control-V to put it into a Word document. So here we go. We've got our financial analysis report, the year-end summary of results. Total sales, the restaurant's total sales for 2022 increased significantly to 675,000 to 427 in 2021, which is the right numbers. I've got it in front of me right now. They are the right numbers. We should double check. We're accountants. We have to be aware of the fact it's not so good with complex math, but it's still pretty good. It can understand an Excel spreadsheet and do some interesting analysis. So it's given me a summary of the gross profit, which saw a substantial increase. I'm just double checking. Did it get the numbers right? Yes, the numbers are completely right. Operating profit has improved significantly. Profit before tax, it's got that. Profit after tax, the restaurant recorded a profit after tax of 21,881. Great. So it understands the data and it's given me a summary. And the same with the balance sheet. Now, more important, I want to know what the potential errors are in the accounts. And so it's come up with 2. There appears to be an inconsistency in the tax recoverable line item on the balance sheet for 2021, as it is listed as 1,115, but there is no corresponding tax liability. Now, I think it just doesn't understand how you post-tax things. So I would put my accountant's hat on and check that and think, actually, I'm not too concerned with that. And it's only given me 2, by the way. What you might want to do is say, I want 5 or 10 potential errors, and it will do that. And so that might be useful if you've got a meeting with the client and you just want to, before you have the meeting, you just want to check to see, is there anything a bit funny in the numbers? Perhaps the difference between this year and last year that I should probably just draw to the client's attention and just flag up and see if there's a potential issue there. Has the gross margins dropped considerably? Has a particular expense category gone up a lot that we might miss, but ChatGPT might come up with a bunch of ideas to help us there. Then we've got areas of concern. Current liabilities. The restaurant has a significant amount of current liabilities, including trade creditors. VAT is UK sales tax. Managing these liabilities effectively is crucial to ensure the business financial stability. So it can see that there's a potential problem with cash flow because of current liabilities. There is profitability fluctuations, depreciation. So it's picking up on areas of concern. I think, just bear with me a second. Okay. And then I've got recommendations, and here it's got some recommendations over the working capital management, consistency, asset depreciation reviews. So it understands the numbers and it can come up with advice. And you could ask many more prompts here. You could ask for well, any questions you can think of to better understand the numbers, or perhaps you could ask it for what you might have a client meeting later. What questions should I ask the client about these numbers? And it'll give you some questions you could ask to query the client. Okay, so that is how are we doing? We've got 15 minutes. That's how you can use it to analyze data. The easy way with the free version. As I say, Emily's going to show you something even more powerful later. Let me do one more. I'm going to do one more thing, I think. One more use case, because there's no questions. But if there is a question, you have time for questions. The last thing, let me just find it. The last thing I'm going to show you, and I'm guilty of not actually opening up on my computer something I need for this. It'll take me seconds, don't worry. Let me try and multitask, which I'm not good at, and talk at the same time, if I can. I'm just opening up a document on my computer. So one of the things there's lots of things that ChatGPT is great for. We looked at ideation, coming up with ideas. Emma's going to show you that. Content creation. We have creating content. Analyzing data is great. Using it for marketing is brilliant. I love it for marketing. But my favorite use case, the thing that I think it is best for us in the accounting profession is, I mentioned earlier the threat that there may be a point coming up soon where AI is so powerful, we don't need to do bookkeeping anymore. It'll just do it. The compliance work may well disappear. And that's a threat. But I see the opportunity is, okay, if compliance work disappears, how else will we create value for our clients? And I've been teaching for years that we need to add more value to our clients. We should be giving more business advice, because business advice is more valuable than just filling in forms, filling in tax returns, adding up numbers. It's when we give advice that we are creating more value. And when we combine business advice with value pricing it, so pricing based on the value, not the hours it takes us, then business advisory can be extremely profitable work. And I think that's the biggest opportunity for our accounting profession: business advisory, tax advisory work. And when it comes to business advisory, That, I think, is the number one thing that ChatGPT is brilliant for. Because I've been teaching business advisory for 20 odd years. I was doing it in my accounting firm. But very often people say to me, Mark, I'm just an accountant. I can't advise a restaurant business how to grow their business. I've never run a restaurant business before. So very often we have those objections as to why we can't do business advisory. You have no excuse whatsoever now, because you now have ChatGPT. It's extraordinary. So what I'm going to do is this restaurant I have a business plan for is a couple of pages. I've just highlighted the business plan. Actually, I didn't want to do that. I want to go to the prompt first. I'm going to ask a prompt. Let me go. Here we go. Here's the prompt. Control C. I'll keep it in the same chat. Control V. So I want you to act as my business consultant. So I'm changing the persona now, Carl, to a business consultant. Financial accountant would still be good, but I want it to be a business consultant. I am going to upload a business plan, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions about it so you can provide advice and strategic guidance. In all your responses, I want you to use a professional writing style. When you receive it, say, I'm ready for your questions, and stop. And then it says, upload the business plan. So what I'm now going to do is I've got a 2-page business plan, or 3-page one, which I'm just doing Control A to select it all, Control C, and I'm just going to overwrite where it says upload business plan with Control V and paste in a business plan. So this business plan is for this fictional seafood restaurant, and this business plan starts off by a summary of the business. It talks a bit about its value proposition. It talks about what else did it talk about? Some of its marketing activities, its ratings on TripAdvisor. It's got a bit about their team. It's got some summary financial numbers at the end. So this is the context. I'm just giving some background about the business, the client's business. In this case, I'm feeding it the business plan. I could have used the previous little paragraph from the previous thing, but I've given it a business plan. Now, I mentioned privacy earlier. This is a fictional business, but you might want to anonymize the business plan just to be on the safe side. Anyway, so I've said, act as a business consultant. I'm going to upload a business plan. I'm going to ask you some questions. When you receive it, say, I'm ready for your questions, and stop. The reason I've done that is if you don't say, tell it to do that, it'll start doing stuff. It'll start analyzing it, giving you advice and all sorts of stuff. It gets carried away. It's sometimes over enthusiastic. All I want to do is I want to know that it's received the business plan, it understands it, and stop. So let's see if it pays attention. I don't know if it will or not. I've given a business plan to it, and great, it's done it this time. I'm ready for your questions regarding the business plan for Piranha Brothers. So it's read it knows the client. Please go ahead with your inquiries, and I'll provide professional advice and strategic guidance based on the information presented in the plan. So now we can start to create prompts to ask it for strategic advice around the business plan. So, for example, we might say to it, are there any, so perhaps the client creates this 3-page business plan. So we might want to, we've got a meeting tomorrow with the client about their business, and we might say, are there any key sections missing from this business plan, or any essential information missing that will help you to provide better strategic analysis? So let's see what it does. Okay, so it's working away, and here you go. In seconds, it's come up with 10 things that we could do to help the client build a better business plan. So it's saying that we haven't got any market research and analysis. A detailed marketing analysis, including market size, etc., would be useful. There's no SWOT analysis. There's no financial projections. There's no marketing strategy. There's no risk management. There's no customer demographics, etc. And so we might want to, in our strategic conversation with the client, ask about these things. If the client is building the business plan to sell the business or to get finance, we might want to recommend it builds these things in. And we can even get ChatGPT to help create the answers to these sections. So, for example, it asked about market research analysis, competitive analysis. So what we might do is have a follow-up prompt that might say, analyze the competitive landscape for this business and identify 5 ways to improve competitiveness. Was that
Mark, are you still there?
Yeah. Hello? I'm still here. I wonder,
okay.
Did I disappear for a second?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So if I disappeared, I wonder if that's why ChatGPT is having a problem. Let's have a third attempt. There we go. Okay. So I'll just hit regenerate. It just sometimes comes up with an error message. That's all. We just have to bear in mind, sometimes ChatGPT goes down and we just have to regenerate the response. But it sometimes goes down seriously. It's gone down 3 times in the last 2 months. And it's gone down for about 3 hours at a time. But it's usually pretty stable. Anyway, it's come up with some great analysis here, competitive landscape analysis, and so on. Some great stuff that you could use as part of an advisory session with a client. Okay, I think we're coming close to the end of my session, and I'm sure you might want to break fairly soon. So let me just stop the screen share for a second. I do have a question coming. Jeremy Andrews says, is there a plugin to allow AI to monitor incoming email automatically yet? Or for that matter, social media monitoring? I don't know, Jeremy. I don't know about that specific type of plugin. I know that Emily later is going to talk a little bit about plugins. Plugins it just takes this to a whole, I mean, I'm hoping already, and those of you in the 60-odd% who don't have an account yet are now going to get your free account and play around. The things you can do with the free account are extraordinary. But then when you decide to pay the $20 per month, which is not a lot, I don't think, to get the other features, that just takes things to a whole new level. When you use ChatGPT 4, you get better responses. You also get less downtime with ChatGPT 4, well, with the paid for version. But you also get, as Jeremy's just said, you get access to plugins. Now, plugins think of plugins as when Apple launched the iPhone, and it was just really an iPhone, and then they launched the Apple Store, the App Store. And there are now, I don't know, millions of apps on there, which have transformed our use of smartphones now, because there are so many amazing apps that do amazing things that completely transcend what a phone originally did. And the equivalent of the App Store are plugins. And they've only been out for a few months. And already, my last count last month, there were over 800 plugins, and it's just growing at a crazy rate. So I'm not going to go into plugins now, but I know Emily's going to touch on that. And she may even know whether there's a plugin for what you're saying. I'm not aware of one for monitoring incoming emails automatically. I'm not sure, Jeremy, but worth exploring the plugin store. There are some great ones. And what you could do, Jeremy, I haven't got the link to hand, but we have a Facebook group. Perhaps if Emily's here now, she might make a note of it. We have a Facebook group called ChatGPT and AI for accountants and bookkeepers. I think we have about 7,000 people in it. And so if you're not in it, Jeremy, then Emily can share the link later. If you join our Facebook group, you can cut and paste that question into our Facebook group, and it may be somebody else is aware out of the 7,000 people in there. And if you tag me, I'm happy for you to tag me. I might go and do a little bit of research myself and see if I can find anything that might help you in that particular area. Okay, I think at this point I'm going to introduce, hang on, let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to say. No, just a quick recap on what we've covered. So thanks, Emily. She just shared the Facebook group. So I've talked about some of the foundations of ChatGPT, the history of it. We've looked at some of the ways it can save you time, ways to use it. We've looked at some of the 5 pitfalls, things to be aware of. We've talked a bit about prompt engineering. And then I've hopefully given you some use cases to get you to see the potential, different ways of using it, but also I was using it to illustrate different ways of creating your prompts and how to use some of those elements like the persona, the context, the format, the style, and the tone. So I'm going to introduce Emily and ask Emily if she's here. Emily is part of my team. She's our head of marketing, and she's going to run the second half because I'm officially on vacation today. Emily, are you there yet? Yes. Hi there, Emily. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Thank you.
Awesome. So Emily, like me, she just loves ChatGPT and AI. We're researching it every single week. I mentioned earlier, we do a live stream roughly every 2 weeks on our YouTube channel where we cover stuff. Our next live stream, Emily, is is this Thursday. It's tomorrow at 4 o'clock our time. That's 5 o'clock in South Africa, I think. It's a 60 minutes. And Emily, we'll be talking about how you can use ChatGPT for marketing, won't we?
Yeah.
But I think you might cover some of that stuff later. So Emily's brilliant with ChatGPT. She loves it. We have a video training course that she's done. But between us, we've done the video training. So she's going to lead the second half because I'm on vacation. Like with me, please ask any questions of Emily. She will pause and answer questions. But what we will do now, it's been quite a long session so far. I think we'll have a 5-minute break. How are we doing that, Emily? Have you got some music to play out and a countdown?
Yeah, so I'm going to continue with the session, and I've got a countdown ready just so you can have a 5-minute break. So when we're ready, I'll get that going and we can all have a break. Okay, so time to get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever you want to do. Go to a bathroom break. Emily can play the music, and I will see you hopefully on another session, perhaps even tomorrow's live stream. Emily, over to you.
Gotcha, this a new way. We're gonna show you the tricks that I know. You're getting tired of talking, and I need more of a show right now. It's time that you made your mind up. 'Cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other. I will get
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the session. We're going to carry on. So hopefully you've had a bit of a chance to grab some coffee, have a toilet break, that sort of thing. We're going to carry on. So if you don't know who I am, I've worked for Mark for about 5 years now, and I'm the head of marketing. So I'm a marketer and a copywriter, not an accountant and a bookkeeper. So I will have some time at the end for anybody that wants to ask any questions about ChatGPT, about marketing, and about accounting as well, if I can help. Use the chat box. There is also a Q&A feature, and you can use that and put your questions in there, and we will have some time to come and answer those as well. So if you do have questions, feel free to ask them. So I just want to also show you again a couple of those resources that Mark showed you in the last kind of half of the session. So we do have an ebook available for you. So hopefully you can see that on the screen now. And there's a QR code in there, and we have already pasted the link in the chat box as well. So if you want to, you can grab that. It's got a lot of great practical use cases for ChatGPT in the accounting industry. So if you feel like you need more after the end of this session, which hopefully, you feel that you've got a great start into ChatGPT here, but if you feel like you need more, then you're welcome to grab that ebook. It's totally free. We do also have, we saw from the poll that only 60% of you have not even got an account yet. So if you do need some assistance with that, we do have a video on the YouTube channel where you can, it just shows you going through the process of getting set up and gives you a bit of navigation around the area as well. And on our YouTube channel as well, once you're on there, you can go and have a look. We have lots of other videos about different ways that you can use ChatGPT, and we do a live stream every sort of 2 weeks. We've got one tomorrow focusing heavily around marketing. So you might be interested in joining that as well. And then we just wanted to mention that we have an event coming up soon called Value 2023. And there's a QR code on the screen now if you wanted to find that on your smartphone. And I will show them briefly again at the end as well. And you can use that coupon code as well to get a great discount on your ticket. I just thought I'd show you all of those things. That's coming up on October 3rd to 5th. If you're interested in that, we will be talking a bit more about ChatGPT, but also other areas like marketing and pricing and various things like that as well. So with those kind of out the way, let's get back into the ChatGPT content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some features of the software. So as we saw from the poll, most of you have never used it before, or if you are using it, it's very light. You're just kind of playing around with it, and you're not, as an advanced daily user as we are in the business. So I'm going to show you a couple of features, some other things in the settings that you can change if you're not happy with things, and some extra kind of advanced features that you can use and access as well if you are a paid member. So we're going to talk about those. I'm going to show you some examples. Somebody mentioned in the questions earlier about plugins, and we've mentioned as well about this feature that was initially called Code Interpreter, but is now called Advanced Data Analysis, or ADA, if you will. So we're going to look at that, and I'm going to show you how to use it and how to access it. And then I'm also going to show you some more potential use cases. They're going to be mainly marketing kind of based, because that's my expertise. But we're going to look at ideation, brainstorming, creating content for content marketing purposes, and some various other use cases if we do have time left at the end as well. So with that said, I think what I'm going to do is I do have this prepared, but I think what I'm going to do is share my screen, because I think you'll be able to see just a little bit neater if I share screen. So hopefully everyone can see my screen now. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you around first. So Mark has already shown you a little bit about the area, about the kind of layout and where you can find everything. But just to kind of reiterate that, along the left-hand side here, we have all of the conversations that I have had in the past with ChatGPT. They are all saved. What we're kind of waiting for is a great way to organize this, because they don't seem to have that yet, but it is sort of sectioned into, I've got today, yesterday, the past 7 days, and previous 30 days. and it does section those into them. So if you're using it continuously and you're using a lot, you can find those quite easily. Something that I will actually mention as well is I use ChatGPT on my phone. So they have recently created, both for iOS and Android, they have ChatGPT on an app on your phone. And if you're looking for a certain conversation on your phone, they do have a search feature for it, which I realize because I use it on my phone quite a lot. So if it's something that you feel like you're going to use out and about in your day-to-day life, then I do recommend you get the app on the phone as well. And even if not, it can just help you search for your conversations until they've worked out a better way of organizing the features on the left here, the conversations on the left. So it is important to remember that whilst ChatGPT has grown so much in the past couple of months, it is still a relatively new piece of software, and some of these features that they are uploading and adding are still in, if you'd call it beta or beta mode, so they're still in a test mode. Some things you'll find sometimes they don't work, or they don't work in the way that you expect them to, but we are seeing such a fast development in the software that, you know, within a couple of weeks to a month, generally, if you're seeing an issue, it will be fixed and it will be improved upon, because it's just going at such a quick rate. Okay, so we've got the conversations here on the left, and then down in the left, on the bottom left here, you can see my name, and then there's 3 buttons down there, and this opens up the extra features for my settings. So originally, ChatGPT would automatically log you out, but what they have since changed that so that you're now not automatically logged out, so you can stay in there. It does have 2-factor authentication, so you can turn that on if you want to, and that just means that when you log in, it will send a code to either your email or your phone, just to give you that extra level of security. Because one of the things that Mark mentioned in his session earlier was that one of the kind of limitations and potential weaknesses of ChatGPT is its security and privacy sort of features. So there are a couple of things that we can do there. So let's just go into settings and beta first. And what I'll show you is, so you can change whether you have a dark or a light background. You can clear all of your chats if you want to get rid of everything that's in there so far. I'm not going to do that because I've got a lot of stuff in there. We have access here to the beta features, and I'm going to go over these in more detail later. So we've got plugins here and advanced data analysis, and you can see that both of mine are toggled into the on position, so they are enabled, and I can use those features, and I'll show you how to do that in just a little while. And then here on the data controls, so what I can do is I can turn off my chat history and training. So if you're uncomfortable with the idea that ChatGPT and OpenAI are going to train their model off of the conversations that you have, then you can turn that off. So there is the option to do that. You can also export your data so that you can see what they have access to in there as well. Okay, and here is the feature for you to disable and enable 2-factor authentication as well. So you've just got that extra layer of protection, especially if you're putting sensitive content in here, which we don't recommend that you put. You know, we recommend that if you're putting data in here, you anonymize it, you remove people's names and emails and things like that. But there are just a couple of things to kind of consider that might help you with security and privacy sort of side of things. So there's that. Another kind of feature that's a bit interesting is that if you're one of these people that's really likes to use everything on their keyboard, there are some shortcuts that you can use. So if I just click onto the question mark down here and I go to keyboard shortcuts, I can do things like open new conversations, I can open and close the sidebar, I can delete chats, I can do things like that. So that's just a nifty little feature if you're interested in that. Now it is showing for me I'm using a Mac, an Apple computer, so it's showing me these particular symbols. If you're on a PC, you'll see the PC equivalent there as well. So if that's something you're interested in doing, then that could be useful for you. Another feature is one that Mark has actually already mentioned, which just on the front screen here, you'll see these prompt suggestions. Now, if you're completely brand new to ChatGPT and you just want a bit of an insight into what kind of things maybe you might look for, and this is kind of giving you more personal approaches, more things like, you know, recipe ideas, holiday planning, party planning, what gift can I get for my mom on her birthday, those sorts of things. So if you're very, very brand new, it could be interesting to click one of those and just see what it creates for you so that you get a sense of how to use it. But what we do recommend instead is that actually you go and you learn how to do prompt engineering based on a lot of the stuff that Mark teaches in the previous session. Learn those formulas, learn how to provide more context, more nuance in your prompts, and get good at making those prompts so that the information that ChatGPT gives you back is detailed and contextual and is more appropriate for what you're asking for, okay? So there is this feature and you can use it, but we would recommend that you get good at prompt engineering instead, okay? So one of the things as well that you can do is you can actually share your conversations with other people. So when you make your ChatGPT account, and we're going very basic here because a lot of people aren't using it, but when you make your account, really it's only for one person unless you're willing to share your login and your password details. But what you can do is if you're working with a team and you have been having a conversation with ChatGPT that you think is really useful information and you would like to share that conversation with your team members, then what you can do is you can share that conversation. So let me just let me find one here that I can just use as a demonstration. So I've got a random conversation here that I have had previously, and the content in it, I think that's a great answer. I want to share that with my team so that they can continue to have that conversation with ChatGPT. Then what we can do is up in the top right corner here, there's this button that says share chat. So it used to be over here on the left next to the conversation that I have chosen. So there's this little pencil icon here that you can see, and I can change the name of that conversation. So when you start a conversation, ChatGPT will automatically generate a recommended title for that conversation, but you can come in here and change that yourself. And then up here, we can share the conversation. So what we would do is we can rename that conversation again here if we want. We can anonymize it, or we can make sure to share our name if we want to do that. And then we can just copy that link and send that off in an email or wherever it is to one of your team members and say, I've been having this conversation with ChatGPT. You know, this might be something that you continue the conversation with, okay? So that's a great way of bringing your team into this if everybody has their own account. And also, they don't have to have a ChatGPT account to view the conversation, but they will need to have one in order to continue the conversation, if that makes sense, okay? So that is conversation sharing. So now we're going to get into, that's kind of a quick overview of just a couple of key features that they have added over the course of the last couple of months. We're going to get into more of the advanced features now. So what we're going to start with is actually something external to ChatGPT, and this is extensions that you can add. So we're going to look at two things. We're going to look at extensions and plugins. Now, the difference between the two, extensions is something that it will affect ChatGPT based on the layout and things like that, and you'll be able to use features, extra features within your ChatGPT, but it also sits on your browser, your other web pages that you're using. It's something that the ones I'm going to show you at least are through Google. Okay, and then plugins are something that work directly within ChatGPT. Mark used the example earlier. He said it's like the apps in your app store on your phone. So we're going to see how crazy it is as well with how many extra plugins they do have now. And it's exactly the same with Chrome extensions. There are so many out there that you can get really, really confused by it. You can get overwhelmed by it. So what we tend to do is, at least in our live streams and in our training that we do, is we try and find the best ones that are the most appropriate for you to be using in the accounting industry, and we'll tell you those ones that are great for you to use. And if you wanted to go and do your own research and find other ones, then you are welcome to do so. You're also welcome to join our Facebook group and ask other people if they've been using certain ones as well. So let's say you find one that is great at handling receipts or finance kind of information, and you want to see if anybody else is using it before you go ahead and make your own account and start using it, then you can go and ask those questions in the Facebook group, or you can ask us in the group as well. Okay, so hopefully that clears up what the difference between the two is. So I'm now going to show you how to find those extensions and my top 2 that I like to use. So in what I do is, so hopefully you can see my entire screen here. I'm in Google Chrome, and there are 3 buttons here on the right, on the top right. And what I'll do is I'll click that and I'll go down here to extensions. Now, it just so happens that it's opening my my extra drop down. I think that's outside of the share range, so I don't think you can see that, but all it is it's giving me a little drop down menu, and it says either manage extensions or visit the Chrome store. So what I can do is I can visit the Chrome store, and I can then type in whatever it is I'm looking for. Now, if I have a specific one that I want to add that I've been recommended, then I can type that in. And if not, I can just kind of go through themes. I can look at, I can type in whatever it is I'm looking for specifically, if it's a finance related one, if it's a marketing related one, whatever it might be, and I can just go and explore. Now, the one I'm going to tell you about, a couple ones that I use. First of all is this one called Glass. It's called Glass PDF. And you can see what that looks like. It's this sort of red, yellow, green, blue sort of square. So that's what it looks like if you're going into the store to find it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that on, and I'm then going to go back to my other tabs and refresh them. Now, what I'm going to show you, let me just refresh because it's going to start playing this video.
Grammarly.
So what happens now is, because I have enabled that extension, I now have this sort of box up here along the top, which you can see with this glass icon. And what that's going to allow me to do is to summarize YouTube videos. So it's a really, really great tool. I will say that if you're watching videos that are longer than maybe half an hour, then there might be other ways of doing this that might be a bit better, because what it does is it automatically grabs the transcript from that video and puts it into ChatGPT for you and asks for a 5 bullet point summary. So if you're watching a video, maybe there's some new information come out in the industry and you want to get up to speed on it, or it's maybe somebody doing a review of a piece of software, something like that, and you really want to watch that video, but it's half an hour long and you only have 5 minutes to spare in between all of your client work, okay? What you can do is use ChatGPT to summarize that video for you. So in a similar way that Mark showed, you can summarize like a business book or a large PDF, things like that. We can actually summarize these videos as well. So if I click this button here, it says View AI Summary. It's going to open a new tab for me in ChatGPT, and it's going to paste in there the transcript for that video with the prompt here at the top. Summarize the following in 5 bullet points. Okay, so it's put the title in there. It's then found the transcript, and this video that I'm using, by the way, is that video that I mentioned earlier, which is a setup guide for you to help get set up with ChatGPT. So it's put all of the transcript in there. It's just a very, very long prompt. And what it's done is it's given me 5 bullet points summarizing the video. So this video is a step-by-step guide on setting up ChatGPT, presented by Mark and myself. To register, users should go to OpenAI website and click on Introducing ChatGPT. Once registered, users land on the ChatGPT interface where they can start new chats. Conversations are saved on the left-hand side, and users can opt out of data collection. Okay, some of the things I've just shown you. An upgrade to the Plus account is available, and we'll talk about upgrading in a minute. And then additional resources like the ebook and the Facebook group are also available. So it's kind of taken those key points from the video and given you a quick summary. So if that's something you don't have enough time to watch a video and you want a quick summary, that's a great way of doing it, having that extra extension. Okay, so another extension that I personally like to use, my other favorite, is this one called, and I go back to extensions, AI Prompt Genius. Okay, and you can see the icon here. It's got this sort of pink brain with a purple speech box in the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable that and then come back to ChatGPT. Now, what I'm going to show you first is this is kind of like the home screen of ChatGPT, if you will. And this is what it looks like. Now, when I refresh my page, it's going to enable that extension. So it will show you just how it affects the interface of ChatGPT when you have these extensions on. And you don't have to have these on. I tend to turn them on and off as I use them. But what I'm going to do is refresh. And now you can see I've got these extra kind of posts here in the middle, because what this particular extension does, if I go, hopefully you can see right down in the corner, there's now this little arrow that points to the left. I can open another sidebar, and what I can do is I can save my favorite posts, my favorite prompts even. So Mark mentioned earlier about having, you know, templates where he had, I think, business type and entity type in brackets. Now you could save that on a Word document or on, you know, the notes on your computer or something like that. But if it's something that you use continuously and it's a good example prompt that you often use, you know, maybe it is something like a complicated SWOT analysis or a business advice, you know, a business plan review, and you do that with a lot of your different business advisory clients, then you might like to save that prompt in this sidebar. And then when you're ready, you can just come back and use it. So you can either go into the sidebar here. So I have one here on my potential ideal client, which is just an example that I use. And I can just copy and paste that and put it into a new conversation. And equally, I can come to the home screen here and I can just click that button and it's going to add it to the prompt for me there as well. So that's just an interesting way of having prompts to hand if you are using similar ones a lot. So we tend to make a lot of marketing content on here. So things like creating a series of Facebook posts we have in there. If we have a particular writing style that we like it to use, we have that in there. And then whenever we start a new conversation, we can just paste that prompt in there to start off with, and then go ahead and continue with whatever else is relevant, okay? So I'll show you kind of how I use that a little bit more when I get onto the use cases in just a few minutes. So, so those are the top two Chrome extensions that I would recommend, is GLASP and AI Prompt Genius. The plugins now we're going to look at, I'm going to show you first how you access these. So I'm just going to go back to the home screen. What I'm going to do, no, I'll leave that extension on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the settings here and go to settings and beta. So these are the newer features. So plugins and advanced data analysis, which was originally called Code Interpreter. These features are very new. They are still in development. They're still being tested. And if there are issues and bugs with them, it's because they are new. They don't always work perfectly, but when they do, it works really, really well. So what we're going to do is turn the plugins on. And then, by the way, this is only available if you are a paid member. So we do recommend that you upgrade to the paid version because it's only $20 a month plus tax. So it's $24, I think, a month. And what you get from it is essentially a personal assistant. You get a full-time employee for $24 a month. That's kind of how we visualize it. And the quality of stuff that you get from it is amazing. So it's really, really worth that. And also when you upgrade to the Plus account, it gives you access to GPT-4, which you'll see here on my screen. I have GPT 3.5 on the left, And on the right, I can just click and toggle over to GPT-4. So that is the newer model. It's more advanced, it's more nuanced, it's had a bit more training, it's had a bit more feedback, okay? So they're constantly developing their models. The difference between the two, I'd say 3.5 and 4, they're both very, very good answers. GPT-4 is a bit more nuanced, it's a bit more of a comprehensive answer. It's just going to give you a little bit more detail, I think. It's just a slightly better answer. And you can test these if you do have, if you do go for the paid version, you can give it the same prompt and see, you know, what the difference in the response is. Now, GPT 3.5 is a bit faster, and we're talking, you know, GPT-5 will do it in 2 seconds, whereas 4 will do it in 5 seconds. You know, it's minimal. They're still both very, very fast. And GPT 3.5 is available to all free users, and there is no limit on the amount of prompts you can ask. Now, GPT-4, even as a paid user, you only get 50 messages every 3 hours. So if you're doing a big project and you're using it a lot and you really want to make sure that you're using GPT-4 to get those better answers, or you're using the plugins or the advanced data analysis features, you just need to bear in mind that you only get 50 messages every 3 hours. So you can be, you know, you can combine your prompts into less prompts so that you're not asking as many, or you can test them out first in the 3.5 version. And once you're happy with the prompt and you've kind of gathered them all together into you know, a big prompt that you're happy with, you can then put it into the GPT-4 version, just so that you're maximizing the 50 messages. But I would say that I use ChatGPT pretty much every single day, and I don't often hit that cap. It used to be 25 messages and I did hit that cap, but I have never hit the cap for 50 messages. So, and I use it every day. I use it quite extensively. So it's just something to bear in mind. But when you use the paid version, you get access to that. You get access to GPT-4. You get access to the extra features, the new features that come out. So currently we have the plugins and advanced data analysis, which you can see here. You get access to those beta features when they are released. You get priority access. And you also get priority access as well when ChatGPT is over capacity or it's struggling. You as a paid user will get priority access over other, you know, sort of free users as well. So if you're using ChatGPT consistently, using it a lot, and you want to make good use of it, it's definitely worth that $24. Okay, we would highly recommend it. So let's look at plugins then. So I've enabled plugins in these settings. What I then do is I come over here to GPT-4, and in this drop down, I will choose plugins. Now we can see this little, I've got these 3 icons here. Now that's because I have previously already chosen some plugins. But what you'll see when you first get here is you'll see a little drop down. You won't see any of these. You'll just see this feature here that says the plugin store. So like we have the App Store on your phone, this is very similar. What you can do is you can browse through the most popular, you can browse through the new ones, or you can browse through, I can browse through here the ones that I have installed, and you can also browse through all. Now what you'll notice is here you can see 6 on my page, and there are 158 pages of 6. So somebody who's good at maths can do that maths, but there are a lot of apps and plugins available, and we don't want you to get overwhelmed. We don't want you to, you know, focus too much on this. There is so much content that you've already learned how to use ChatGPT, and you can use so much stuff on the free version. But once you're kind of ready for that step up, using these plugins opens up a whole extra world of things that you can do. So a couple that I'm going to show you. And by the way, there's this search feature here. So if you wanted to type in here, somebody earlier in the chat box had a question about ones that work with your emails. So you can type that in here and see if there is anything here. So we've got a couple that have come up. Connect with any email provider and engage with your email data seamlessly. Now we've not tested these. I can't vouch for it. But what you might do is install it and have a go with it. sometimes you do need to have an account with that particular, this one's called Nilas. You might need to have an account with that program in order to use the plugin here. And some of them you don't. Some of them, they're free plugins. They come straight into ChatGPT and you can use it like that. But you can do that. You can go through, you can flick through and look for the ones that are interesting to you if you want. We can type in things about, finance and see what comes up. Maybe we're looking at marketing. Maybe we're looking at SEO marketing. We can see what comes up, and you can just have a look at these, see which ones you want to use. You can do a bit of research as well if you want to look at the reviews and see what other people are saying about whether it's worthwhile getting these. They're all free, and you just add them to your plugins. So what you do is you install them, and then when you come back to the home screen here, you'll then see all of the ones that you have installed in your drop-down menu. Now, when you're using plugins with your conversation, you need to be aware that once you have started the conversation, you can't add any more plugins. So you're limited to 3. You can only use 3 in any one conversation. And once you have started that conversation, even if you've only chosen 1, you can't then add extra plugins. So you have to prepare what you're going to ask before you start the conversation, and then choose the plugins that are relevant that you're going to need before you have the conversation, okay? Because you won't be able to add those in afterwards. So the ones that I've got added on here, just to give you an example. So the ones that I'm using, I have lots, but my kind of top 3, my favorite few that I would use is this one called Link Reader, and this one called Web Requests. And I'm also using Zapier to show you how that can help you as well. Now, ChatGPT, they did at one point add a browsing feature, an internet feature to ChatGPT, so that, just to explain, ChatGPT is trained on tons and tons of pages of information that it has read on the internet up until the cutoff point of September 2021. So it's read trillions of pages of information on the internet up until that point. But anything after that point, it doesn't have immediate access to in its data banks. And as it currently stands, it doesn't have internet access either to be able to get that recent information. So if you wanted to ask, a bit of information that happened last week, it's not going to know it. If you wanted to say, what's the weather going to be tomorrow, you could go to Google search and find that on a weather report, but ChatGPT can't do it unless you're using this kind of loophole, which is the plugins. So it did originally have it as a feature that you could browse the internet, and it has since removed it because some issues it was finding was that by having that feature, one of the main issues it has is ChatGPT was able to get around paywalls. So people who, for example, are selling a book online, ChatGPT was able to get around the payment wall beforehand and just get access to the book and then use that in its data. So they removed the internet feature because of that, because it was kind of breaching copyright and things like that. So they have removed the feature, but there is still a way for you to access the internet using these plugins. So the ones I've got here are Link Reader and Web Requests. These are the ones I'm going to use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a question. I'm going to ask it something that it needs to use the internet to get that information for. So I did previously do this conversation, so I'm going to just copy and paste this prompt so that you can see in real time how fast it works. So I've given it the video, so earlier I showed you this extension called GLASP that does the video, gives you a summary of the video. But I mentioned that if you have a video that's maybe longer than about 20-30 minutes, and you've got a lot of transcript in there, then it's going to start to struggle. Whereas if you do this method and you give it the link, sometimes that can work a bit better and it will be able to summarize the video a bit better. So let's see what it comes up with. And you'll see in live time what it's doing. So it's telling you here that it's using Link Reader. You can see that it's whirring away. And if you were to click this drop down as well, it does show you kind of all of the code of stuff that's going on behind the scenes as well, if you're interested in seeing that. But you don't have to look at that. We can just keep that hidden. And here we go. It's giving me a great summary of the video. You can see the difference in the speed as well. You saw how quick the 3.51 was earlier when Mark was using it. And whilst this is still a very, very quick summary, you can see that it is slightly slower, but not an issue at all. It's still going to save you so much time. Okay, so let's just let it finish. I think it's going to put an image in there for me as well. Maybe not. So what it's done is the video titled Easy Step-by-Step Guide to Setting Up ChatGPT provides a comprehensive guide. The video is hosted by Mark Wickham and Emily Cross. The key points, we have the introduction, we have getting started. Emily takes you through opening a new tab and searching for ChatGPT. Go to OpenAI website, fill in your email and password, verify your email. Okay, an overview of the dashboard, an overview of some of the controls, and all of that various sort of stuff. So it's giving you a great summary there of the video. So that might be if you're finding that you've tried Glass and it's the prompt that it's getting when it copies the entire transcript in there is too long, because it does have a limit of how long you can put in the prompt, if that makes sense. There's a word count almost. Now it goes on something called tokens. I don't know off the top of my head what the tokens were, but it's more, you do get more in the paid version. So you can put longer prompts in there. And of course, when you're using the paid version, you also get this feature where you can upload files, which I'll show you in a second. So that was the first one. Can you summarize this video? Now, what did I ask next? Let's have a look. Let's see. So the next thing I asked it to do is, can we summarize the contents of a website? So let's say you are you're researching a new piece of tax legislation, or there's a new piece of software's come out and you want to find the price for it, but you don't want to scan through all of the various different pages. Then what you can do is just give the URL of a specific page, but I just asked it to summarize kind of our entire website here, and give it that link. And what it's going to do is it's going to use that link reader again to find the answer for you. So it's going to go away, look at the link, and it's accessing the internet to do this. And then it's going to give me a summary of our website. So we've got an introduction. Mark is introducing himself and the mission, talks about the value pricing system. We teach value pricing is a big part of what we do. There's a section that's about Mark and about his kind of credentials. We have the four academies there, is the Value Price Academy, Bookkeepers Academy, Online Live Academy, and Profitable Growth Academy. We've got some testimonials, we've got our blog on there, and we have our partnership with B1G1, which allows us to make charitable contributions based on our projects. So it's given us a great overview there of our website. And that's going to take me, a minute to read, 2 minutes to read, rather than spending all that time sifting through all of the different pages on the website. I've got a great summary here. So that's one way that you can use this particular plugin to give you access to the internet. Now, another thing that you can do, so this one has used Link Reader. And what that's doing is you have to provide it with a link. Now, what I can do is go a step further with web requests. What I can do is just ask it a question that I know it needs to use the internet for to get that answer. So what I'm going to do is go back to my question here. And what I'm asking is, so I'm from the UK, I live in Sheffield in the UK. I said, can you tell me what the weather will be like in Sheffield in the UK tomorrow? So it's going to have to go online to find that information from some sort of weather report. We would look at BBC weather probably. And okay, so it's not managed to do it, which is why we always say this is a beta feature. It doesn't always work. Now, I have had conversations with it previously where it has managed to do it. So sometimes it does work, sometimes it can be a bit finicky, and you have to give it another go. So I'll hit regenerate and I'll see if it can do it in another go. And if not, I'll show you the previous conversation where it did manage to do it. Sometimes you just have to try it a couple of times. And I would, here we go. So now it's done it. So tomorrow in Sheffield, UK, the weather is expected to be as follows. In the daytime, partly cloudy with highs of 18 Celsius, and in the night, it's partly cloudy with lows of 10. Please note that the weather conditions can change rapidly, so it's always a good idea to check a reliable weather source. So I could go and then verify that on Google or on BBC Weather Report myself and see if that's accurate. But you can see that what it's done is it's gone onto the internet, found that resource, found well, it might tell you here actually what it's clicked on. Well, no, it's showing you all as code. What it did sometimes shows you which particular websites it clicks on, and it can give you the source and things like that as well. So what it's done is it's gone to the internet, it's found that response for you, and then it's summarized it in a way that's nice and quick and easy for you to consume. So that's another way of using the web requests plugin. Now, another one that I've got here is I'm asking it a bit more of a complicated question. So one of the things I mentioned was it's only trained up until September 2021. So anything that has changed since that time period, if you're asking for information from it, you have to bear in mind that those things might have changed. Okay, so in particular, the question I'm asking here is, can you find me the latest tax brackets in the UK in 2023? So that will be different than the information it's trained up until September 21. So I know that it needs to use the internet to find that answer and find that response. Now I could go into Google and I could find this myself, but what I might end up having to do is sift through a couple of different blogs. And I'm asking it very basic questions here, but you could get much more nuanced with your questions. You could say, if you had the prompts that we were looking at earlier was to give it context and say, I'm an accounting firm, this is my ideal client, I'm looking to find something in this area, can you give me advice on this? And you can get a really, really specific answer for that. So just an example for me personally that I've used in my personal use of ChatGPT is I have a dog, I have a border collie, and I had some worries about a health concern, but I wanted specific answers about a border collie, not just about dogs in general. So if I was looking at something about, why is my dog's tooth yellow, I could then add information about, he's this age, he chews on these particular toys, he has this diet, and I'm concerned about his teeth because they look like this. And you can put all of that information in there. So that's a personal example rather than a business example, but you can put all of that information and get a much more nuanced answer rather than just going to Google and then having to sift through a lot of blogs and things that come up. So the latest tax brackets, it's found in the UK, 23 to 24. We've got personal allowance, basic rate, higher rate, and additional rate. And then we've also got other things here about personal allowance, other allowances, and marriage allowances. And it's then given me the link as well to visit the government website to kind of go in. If I wanted to look more into that, I have the link there and I can go and click that and find more information myself as well. Okay, so you can kind of see how plugins work here. Now, I did have to choose these plugins before I started the conversation. There's no way for me to now change the ones that I have chosen. But you can see how that works. It's a kind of loophole of getting internet access through ChatGPT. If that's something that you feel you need, if you're doing research, if you're doing those sorts of things, then it's a great way of using those plugins. Now, the other one that I wanted to briefly show you was this one called Zapier or Zapier, depending how you say it. The potential of this plugin is immense because Zapier, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of an in-between piece of software that helps your different pieces of technology talk to each other. So one example that we have here is that so we have a mailing list, which we use MailChimp that collects people's emails, and it allows us to send emails out to our prospects and our leads. And we also have a, let's say, a calendar booking system. And what we want to do is connect those two so that when somebody joins our particular email list, they're automatically set up with a calendar appointment, for example. And the example that I have here is that I wanted to give them a specific tag in MailChimp. So here what I've done is, Zapier is that in-between kind of program that helps the two pieces of software talk to each other. So when you combine Zapier to ChatGPT, what it's doing is it's giving you access to all of the different apps that Zapier works with. So, and it's got, I think, something over 700 different apps that it can connect with. Whether you're using MailChimp, HubSpot, Aweber, something like that for your emails, you know, whether you're using, we use to organize the business, we use Trello, maybe you use something like Asana, maybe you use Slack to message your team. You can connect all of these apps and you can come into ChatGPT and ask Zapier to do something in your other apps so that you have it all together in one place, okay? You can get it to set up social media things and send them out if you have a social media scheduling tool that connects with Zapier. So we use Meet Edgar, and that's scheduled all of our social media. So I can come to ChatGPT, ask it to create me a series of social posts and then schedule them in Meet Edgar as well, all from ChatGPT, okay? That's when you get Zapier connected to it. You do need to have a Zapier account to do that. And there is still some element of manually going in and confirming everything. So what I have to do is I've asked it, can you create a Zap that triggers when someone joins my mailing list in MailChimp, it will add this tag, new 2023. So it tells me that this is what it's going to do. And then it says you can instantly confirm and create this Zap just by clicking this button here. So I think this is a bit of an old conversation, so I don't think that's going to work, the link. But what I could do is click that, it will open up my Zap, and I will then just click confirm and it will be ready and it will set it up. So you do need to connect your account first, but that's a brilliant way of, you know, just connecting all your apps and saving yourself so much time. Another one here I have is, can you create a Zap to automatically set up a Zoom appointment when someone books through Calendly? So it's maybe not the best example because I think within Calendly itself, you can do this integration, but let's say for some reason you were using a different tool and it didn't have that feature. What you can do is when somebody books an appointment with you, it automatically knows to create that Zoom meeting for you in your Zoom platform. So you can create this automation and just say that's what I want it to do. It will then go ahead and create and set that up for you, and all you have to do is click and confirm it. So lots of potential ways that you can use that particular plugin. It's immense, the amount of things that you can do, and you do need to make sure that you're connected with your Zapier account before you start using that. But there's so many things that you can do with that when it comes to using plugins. Okay, so those are my kind of top three that I would recommend to you: is the web requests, is link reader, and Zapier. So the next thing I want to show you is what was called Code Interpreter, but has since been renamed to Advanced Data Analysis. And it's a good job they changed that name, because Code Interpreter was quite misleading. It made you think that you were dealing with lots of code, which is another thing to mention, is that ChatGPT is great with written stuff. It can help you with some math stuff, as we've seen a bit tentatively. It can help you with data analysis. It can also help you with things to do with code. So if that's something that you're interested in, we don't go into much detail about it because it's not normally relevant for accountants. But there are occasions where, let me show you an example. I needed to add a piece of code to an email so that I could add a countdown timer, and I wanted it to move it from being left aligned so that it was middle aligned, and I didn't know how to do that with the code. So what I just did is, can you create some code to center align this? I pasted that code in there, and then it rewrote the code for me, and I can then copy and paste that and put it into somewhere else. So if you use code, if you can find it useful, that, and you find that that's interesting, then it is another thing that ChatGPT can do. I just thought that was worth mentioning. You know, it might be able to help you create formulas in your Excel spreadsheets and things like that, which can be really, really useful if you want to, you know, set up all of your columns so that they make, you know, clever formulas and additions and whatever it is that you might want to use your Excel for. So I just thought I'd mention that it does do code as well. But then what we're looking at now is the advanced data analysis feature. So again, I'm going to come back to my home screen. I'm going to click on, I'm going to hover over GPT-4, and then I can scroll down here to advanced data analysis. Just a reminder, if you don't see it here, it's because you need to enable it in your settings down here, where it says settings and beta. I then go to beta features, and I make sure that that is switched on here. And then I will be able to see it here. So again, when you are using this feature, you need to have it selected before you start the conversation. If you start a conversation just using the default feature, or if you're using plugins, annoyingly, unfortunately, you can't use plugins and advanced data analysis at the same time. You can only choose one. But you should only really need to use one at a time, and you can just make another conversation to use the other feature. What you'll see, what you'll notice actually here is, I'll show you. So when I'm on the default one, if I look at the prompt selection here, this is what it looks like. You'll notice there's no upload feature, but when I click here and I go to advanced data analysis, I now have this button here, this little plus icon, where I can attach a file. So what this allows me to do is upload Excel spreadsheets and ask for analysis. I can upload PDFs and ask for summaries. If I have the PDF of a business book and I want to upload that, I can do so and get it to do a really in-depth summary of that book for me. You know, the reason that this is slightly different to, you know, Mark showed you in the previous session, that you can just kind of copy and paste from a document and paste it into here. But there is a word limit. There is a limit on how long your message can be when you're using 3.5 and even when you're using GPT-4. So what this allows you to do is upload really large files and multiple files as well. So if you wanted to upload 3 or 4 different Excel spreadsheets that were maybe the different profit and loss accounts over the years for a business, and you wanted to put all of them in there and then get an analysis of them all comparatively, then you can do that. You can add the file. So let's just show you how that works. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see my my files here. Hopefully not. But what I'm going to do is, let me just stop screen share just in case. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click that. I'm clicking that button. I'm going to go into my documents to find the Excel spreadsheet that I'm looking for. And it's going to be the same one that Mark showed you earlier. Let me just focus whilst I find this. So I'm going to upload that same spreadsheet, and then let me screen share again. So you can see I've now attached this spreadsheet to the prompt. And what I can then ask it to do is, well, I'm just going to ask it something very basic. You've seen previously how you can make those prompts really, really context filled and give it really great extensive prompts. But I'm just going to ask it, can you do a basic analysis? So can you do a basic analysis of the P&L actual? Right. So in this particular Excel spreadsheet, there are different tabs. So I've asked it to look at one of those specific tabs. So it says, okay, let's start by taking a look at the contents of the uploaded Excel file to understand its structure and what kind of profit and loss data it contains. So you can see I've got different tabs. I've got different sheets here. So I've got the sales forecast, I've got a P&L forecast, I've got the actual P&L, I've got the comparative P&L. Okay. So what I might ask it to do, let's see, it's still going, let's see what it's saying. So you've asked for a basic analysis of the P&L actual sheet. Let's start by loading that specific sheet to take a look at its contents. And it'll show you here that it's doing the work. The P&L actual sheet contains monthly and yearly actual figures for the year 2022. The column represent, here we've got categories of revenue and expenses. This seems like a placeholder, perhaps intended to signify the year. We've got January to December monthly data for each category, summation of relevant calculation for the entire year. Okay, so I think it's kind of just telling me what is in the spreadsheet, but it's not really done any analysis of the data just yet. So I'll need to follow up with another prompt. So it says to proceed with the basic analysis, we could focus on the following. So it's giving me some suggestions of what you might want to research. So we have a summary statistics. We can find the mean, median, and standard deviation for key categories. We can find month-wise trends in sales and expenses, or we can find the overall profitability of the year. Would you like me to proceed with any of this analysis, or do you have a specific question in mind? So at this point, I might then say, actually, I want you to do this specific analysis of this specific thing. Well, as I am not an accountant or bookkeeper, I'm just going to go with what it says. And we're going to look for some trends in the business. So I'm just going to put 2, because that's what it's given me the option for. So let's focus on analysing the month-wise trends. Here it goes. To do this, I'll first clean up the data and make it easier to work with. Then we'll visualise the monthly trends for key categories like total sales, food and beverage sales. So it's telling you what it's doing. This is maybe just a slightly neater way of doing this, rather than when Mark showed you, he went and he copy and pasted all of that profit and loss account into one of his prompts. But this, I've uploaded 5 different, essentially, you know, I've got all of the different sheets in there. Okay, so it's struggling. It has done this for me before, but it's come up with an empty thing there. So it's still going, it's giving it another go. It says it appears the plot didn't generate. Let's take a closer look at the data to find what might be causing the issue. So it's kind of, it's working out the issue itself. It's failed, but it's kind of saying, all right, let me have another go at it. I'm not even having to tell it to have another go. So it's given me an alternative to do. It seems that the filtered data frame is empty, which suggests that the key categories total sales, food, beverage might not exactly match the category names in the original data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit regenerate and just give it another go and see if it does it, because in a previous conversation I've had with it, it has managed to create me a really great graph. So I'll give it another chance and see if it can do it. This is the issue with using the beta features. When they work, they are phenomenal. They do such an amazing job, but sometimes they can be a little bit difficult. They can't quite read what's being used, and etc. So we're just going to give it another go, give it another minute and see what it comes up with. So it's saying it finds one of the rows wasn't retrieved properly, and it's made another mistake. Let's take a closer look at the rows. It's trying its best. It really is. I'll give it another minute, and then if it doesn't manage to do it, we will move over to the previous conversation where it did manage to do it. Okay, I'll let it finish its prompt. I will move on. And what I'm going to show you next is uploading a PDF instead. So then what you can do is what we say, interrogating the document. Okay, we've got something. We've got the total sales. It's managed to do it. So here's the monthly total sales trend. It's given me a nice plot graph there. So the sales began moderately in January and experienced a steady increase throughout August, peaking during that month. After August, there was a noticeable decrease in sales, which continued to drop until November. However, December saw a slight rebound. And that is right. That kind of matches what we have in the data. It's a seafood restaurant. So during the summer months, they do have more more sales from the touristy kind of areas. But then in the winter months, they do tend to lose a bit of business. So that's what it's come up with. And next, let's identify the top expense categories and plot their monthly trends. For simplicity, we'll focus on the top 5 expense categories. Shall we proceed? So it's giving me more information of what I might like to continue with. And you can just use it, you know, you saw that sometimes it doesn't work immediately, but often it does create really, really great answers, and it creates me this neat graph, and it's found those trends. It has analyzed the data and found those trends. It's always worth double checking that it has done it correctly, and using your accounting head and using your own judgment and making sure that it has done it correctly. But it is a very interesting tool. So what I can then do as well, I'm just gonna stop my share again whilst I upload another file. So I have this one straight away. What I'm doing this time, let me share again, is I now have the business plan that Mark went through earlier as well, and I'm going to show you what it can do with the business plan. So can you give me a summary of this business? And, you know, we can put more details in there in 100 words or less. So what it's going to do is it's going to read that document. I noticed you've uploaded a business plan document. Would you like me to summarize the business based on the information in the uploaded document or the previous P&L? Okay, so I wasn't clear enough there in my prompt. Because it's found the previous Excel spreadsheet and also the new one that I've just uploaded, and I didn't tell it that I wanted it to use that document. So that's the example there of how you need to be more defined with your prompts. So use the business plan. So here we go. Let's start by reading the contents. So it's going to go and read the contents for me. And what you can do is once it's read the contents of this document, there's all different areas within that. So there's things about, you know, some of the previous financial figures are in there, some of the information about the team, where it's based, some market analysis. I can then have a conversation and say, could you tell me what the best features of this were? Could you tell me what the market research brought back? Can you summarize that for me? So it's done me a great summary here based on the available text. Piranha Brothers is a high street fish restaurant located in Wilmington-on-Sea, Devon, established in 2018. It has 40 covers. It's managed by the two brothers, serving as the head chef and front of house manager. So it's done me a great summary there. I could then ask more questions of it and say, you know, can you, I'm not going to go into it because Mark did kind of already show you this in the previous session, but you can have more questions with it here and say, you know, I want you to work out this thing for me, or can you give me this information? If it's quite an extensive business plan, then you can just quickly find those bits of information that you need. Okay, so that's advanced data analysis. One more feature I wanted to just very briefly show you before we move into some use cases is this feature that's come out quite recently called custom instructions. Now, Mark did mention, I'm not sure whether it actually is available in South Africa. It definitely is in the US and Canada, and in Europe, they have released it recently. So it might just be when you log in, have a look, see if it's there. But what custom instructions is, you know, when we start these conversations, each time we start a conversation, it's completely fresh. It doesn't remember the information that you have talked to it about in a different conversation. So if there are things that you want ChatGPT to always remember about you, then you can give it those instructions in here and it will remember that in every single conversation that you use going forward, so long as you have it enabled here for the new chat. So some things that I normally put in here, and it does give you a bit of a rundown of some things you might put in here. So where are you based? I often just come in here and put in that I'm based in the UK, because I prefer to have my, you know, the numbers. When I'm working with financial numbers, I prefer to see it in pounds. If I'm doing research, I prefer it to find me things that are UK related and UK based rather than US or anywhere else. So you might put things like that. What do you do for work? You might put in there that you are an accounting firm, and therefore when you're asking for things in the future about, you know, write me a blog to do with this or whatever it might be, it knows that you're an accounting firm and it can remember that. So you can put some information in here. It gives you some prompts of things you might put in there. And then you can also give it some information on how you want it to respond. So if you want it to act as a business consultant all the time, then you would put that in here and say, you are a business consultant, always respond as a business consultant, okay? Put that information in there. If you've got a preferred method, you know, I always want you to answer with bullet points or anything like that, you can put that information in here as well. So we do have some assistance on how to kind of fill this out in one of our courses, in our ChatGPT course that we do have. But essentially, you can just put things in here that you wanted to always remember, and then enable it for new chats going forward. And if you don't want it to do that thing and you're starting a new conversation, then just come in, turn the enable for chats off, and then start your new conversation. So if you've put in here that you want it to be a business consultant, but then you're doing a conversation where you want it to be maybe a marketing expert or a copywriter, then you'll come in and turn this off because that's not relevant for that particular conversation, okay? So that's a really interesting, it's a really useful tool as well, so that you always have those, that specific information preset for every conversation that you have, okay? So I want to go into, let me just have a quick look at the Q&A box because I do think there is something in there. Okay, so this was asked a bit of a while ago, sorry. So Christina asks, if a conversation is shared with you and you carry on working with it, will the person that shared it be able to see what you do, or do you have to reshare it? So Christina, no, when you share the conversation and somebody else starts working on it, it's like a clone. So it clones that conversation and they can go off and they can start working on it. Your conversation in your software won't change at all. What they would have to do is, if they wanted to then work more on that conversation and share that back with you, they'd have to reshare that conversation again, if that makes sense. So it's a clone and it acts as two different conversations. Okay, let me just have a quick look in the chat box if there's any questions. I don't think there is. Christina says thank you. Yeah, okay, no worries. And Jeremy, hopefully I answered that question earlier, Jeremy, as well, about the email and the social media. You know, just go into the plugins area, use the search feature and type in whatever you're looking for and see if there's anything relevant that you can use. Okay, so I'm going to go into some use cases. So Mark mentioned the different kind of ways that you can use it. We looked at ideation, content creation, summarization, text manipulation, I think it was, and data analysis. So we're going to look at ideation and content creation first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some pre-prepared things that I have over here on the side. And what I'm going to get it to do is when I get it to do anything marketing related, I always start by giving it my ideal client. So I have this saved in my side bar here, using that feature, the extension AI Prompt Genius. You can just have it saved in your notes or in a Word document or whatever you prefer. And what I always do is I first of all, I give it my ideal client profile, so that it knows who I'm talking to and who I'm targeting with my marketing. So when we're making blogs, when we're making social media content, you're directing that content towards your ideal client, and therefore you want to make sure that it's nuanced, it's attracting the right person, and it's speaking to the needs and wants and desires of that specific person, because then it's going to be more tailored, it's going to be more effective, it's going to be more powerful. So here is my ideal client profile. And then I've just pasted that in. That's just an example one that I used ChatGPT to help me make that. When you have read this, stop. Just stop. hey, I've read your ideal client profile, how can I assist you further? So it's read it and it is now ready for further questions. So just let's have a quick look. My ideal client profile is a tech startup company located in major urban tech areas, 10 to 50 employees. They're in the early stages of their business, 1 to 5 years. They face unique accounting challenges like complex equity structures and so on. They're using QuickBooks or Xero. They value networking and are willing to refer. So a lot of information I put in here, a really detailed idea of who that ideal client is. And if you don't have an ideal client, you absolutely should have one, and you can use ChatGPT to help you do that. But we're not going to go into that today. So what I can then do is get it to make me some ideas for blogs. So I'm just going to use half of this prompt that I have here, because I think the second half is using a different target audience. So what I'm going to ask it to do is, if this is my target audience, suggest to me different content I might be able to create. So provide 3 blog post ideas for an accounting firm specializing in I'm going to just helping this type of business. 2, so provide 3 blog post ideas for an accounting firm specializing in helping this type of business to increase their profitability and cash flow. So I've given it my ideal client profile, I've given it that context in its first prompt. And now just want some ideas. Okay, so I put 3, you could put 100 if you wanted to. But just for the purposes of this, we're going to use 3. You could put 52, and then you've got one for each week of the year. You've got a blog for every week. So it's going to give me a couple of ideas. So the first is navigating complex equity structures, comprehensive guide for tech startups. And it's given me a bit of information here. It's given me an outline, which, you know, I didn't ask for that, but it is going ahead and giving me that really, really comprehensive answer. So I've got the core message, an outline, we've got the introductions, what the type of equity structures are, the best practices, all of that sort of stuff, and a conclusion. I have how to optimize revenue recognition for your SaaS startup, software as a service space, discuss the intricacies of revenue recognition in SaaS companies and how to manage it effectively. And then it's given me a bit of an outline here as well. Number 3, scaling your tech startup, financial best practices for a smooth transition. So it's given me 3 great ideas for potential blog posts that I might use to put content out there. So when you put content out there, it shows that you are an expert in that area. It shows that you have authority, you know, credibility, you have expertise in that area. So putting these kind of things out, blog posts, is a really, really great thing to do. And it can help you, first of all, it's helped you with the ideation. It's helped you come up with the ideas for that blog post. Now what we're going to get it to do is to go ahead and write that blog post for me. So this is where your prompt engineering is really going to become helpful with things like writing style and tone and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, write the first blog. Really simple, a really basic prompt, and see what it comes up with. And then what we're going to do is we're going to edit that prompt and make it a little bit more interesting, give it some more context, some more information, and help it to write it in a better style. Now, if you have a particular writing style that you like to use, that might be something that you save in your, section on the right, or something that you put in your custom instructions, so that it always has a particular writing style that you like to use. So it's quite long, this blog. It's going on a fair bit here. Let's see how long it goes for. Whilst it's doing that, I'm going to start writing the next prompt. So we've got a conclusion. We're coming to the end now. But we can see, let's have a look at this first paragraph then. For many tech startups, managing equity can be a complex and challenging task as you secure venture capital or angel investment. You'll likely encounter a variety of equity instruments, each with its own set of rules and implications. Okay, we can see that it's quite formal in its language. It's given me some nice like headers and paragraphs, and it's broken it up into a nice way. It's quite long. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to ask it to rewrite that blog, make it 500 words or less. So I want it to be a bit shorter. Write in a, let's go with a funny. Let's go with funny. We want it to be relatable and jokey. Okay, let's write in a funny, relatable tone. And the style can be pretty much the same. I was quite happy with the style, but maybe I'll put use bullet points where relevant. Let's see what that does. I've just given it a few extra bits of information to see if it changes it. So the first thing we're going to notice is the style of the writing. Let's just move that out of the way. So we've got, hey there, startup wizards. Now you can take this and change it however much you want. It might not be something that you like the style of that. You might take something that's kind of in between the two. So you've got a shiny new startup, a team that's basically the Avengers of tech, and some investors who believe you're the next big thing. But wait, what's this? Stock options, convertible notes, and RSUs. No, it's not a new line of Star Wars characters. It's your equity structure. Okay, so that's really cheesy. It's really funny. It's friendly, and that might not be the tone for you, but that might be more towards your tone. You can then kind of go back to it and say, you know, I've used the word funny and relatable. Maybe we just change that to friendly. Let's do it. Let's rewrite this blog in a friendly, fun tone, but still professional. And you can play around with this and just get it to a point where you're happy. If you have content on the internet, and you did before September 21, you can even put something like, write it in the style of Mark Wickersham. So we do that sometimes because Mark has written books and they're all there on the internet. He's got the website, he's got lots of videos where he speaks and it can read the transcripts. So you might put something like, write this in the style of Mark Wickersham, and it will find the way that he writes and then write it in that style for you. You might like to write it in the style of a famous copywriter or somebody who's really skilled in writing. So we've got, hey there, startup trailblazers. So you've successfully moved beyond the garage phase, assembled an all-star team, and even wooed some investors. Awesome. But wait, suddenly you're being showered with terms like stock options, convertible notes, and RSUs. No worries, we've got your back. Let's decode this financial jargon together. Okay, so it's a little bit less, you know, we're not mentioning Star Wars and Avengers and things like that. It's a bit more professional, but it's got that light-hearted tone to it. So you can see how you can change these sorts of things around. So I've done that with one blog. You might make a system where you then just do this with all of your blogs, get it to churn out for you 52 blogs, 52 blog ideas, and then take each one and go and write the blog using this method. Say, I want you to write that blog with this style, this tone, this is the context, you know, this is my ideal client, this is who I want to target, and get it to write those blogs for you. So then the next stage in the process, we're talking content creation now, is to, I've got this blog, I now need to promote it to people. So how am I going to promote it? I'm going to put it on my social media. I'm going to put it on, maybe I'll do an ad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to, first of all, make me a series of Facebook posts. So I do have one here ready. So create 3 Facebook posts to promote this blog. It should have a headline that calls out our target audience of tech companies. Okay, so let's see what it comes up with. We've got a Facebook post, we've got some emojis in there, and that headline says, hey, tech startups, confused about equity? We've got you covered. So it's calling out the ideal client there, which is tech startups. Feeling lost in the jungle of stock options, convertible notes, and RSUs? We've got the perfect roadmap for you. Check out our latest blog post, Equity 101, Navigating Your Startup's Financial Maze with Flair. Okay, and it's written me 3. So you can see the style that it's used there. I might like to play around with that and say, can you make me one that's a bit long form? Because sometimes Facebook posts work better when they are quite long. But if you've got a short blog, then maybe you just want a short post. Again, we've got, we can then go and ask it to do a series of tweets. So let me go back to my prompt here. Now I've given it a slightly different tone here. And I'm saying, can you create 10 tweets to promote this blog. The tone should be quirky and fun and appeal to business owners aged 30 and below. So in my ideal client, we were looking at new tech startups. So perhaps I know that my ideal client is of below that age. So let's see what it comes up with. We've got a series of tweets here. You can see that it's a little bit shorter because it knows that the tweet has less characters. We've got hashtags are included in there. Now it hasn't put it in some of the other ones, but this one's got a hashtag in there. Hey tech startups, ever feel like your equity structure is written in the ancient hieroglyphics? Decode the mystery with our latest blog. So some of these are a bit funny. Now you might say, actually, I want these to be a bit more serious. And in which case you could just go back to the prompt and give it another go and say, actually, I want you to do some of them that are more serious. So let's do one that says, rewrite these tweets. I want 5 that are serious and professional, and 5 that are fun and light-hearted. So now we'll get a bit of an option. We'll hopefully see the mix. We'll see them next to each other, what they kind of look like. So we've got some serious ones, professional tweets, understanding equity, a must-read for tech startups, navigate the complexities of stock options, convertible notes, and RSUs with our comprehensive guide. Okay, demystify startup equity with our latest blog, learn how proper equity management can significantly impact your startup's valuation and investment options. So you can see how quickly it's making these. You then have this content. You can go ahead and post your blog and then grab all of these social media posts that have been created for you within a few seconds and send them off to your social media scheduling tool, wherever that might be. Another thing I wanted to show you was that maybe you think, well, when should I post these things? So I can put create a content posting schedule of when to send out these social posts over 7 days. And I could give more interesting prompt. I could ask it to put it in a table. I could ask it to give me, you know, the different best times. I could say what are the optimum times to post on different social platforms. I can ask for that kind of information. And this is what it's churning out for me. So you can see on day 1, you should post at 9 a.m. on Facebook, and at 3 p.m. on Twitter. You can post one of the serious tweets, and then on Tuesday we can do it at 10 a.m. Let me show you the previous conversation that I tested this with, and it did it me in a table. So in the prompt for that one, I just put at the end, format it in a table, and it's given me it in this way instead. So I can see all of the posts I can do on Monday and then on Tuesday, and it gives me that kind of layout that I can then go ahead and use to send out all of the social media at the relevant time. So I think I told it as well that my blog goes out at 9 a.m. on Monday, and then all of this is the follow-up social media promotion that can go out. So that's for, you know, if you're doing a blog and you want to promote it, or if maybe you've got an event coming up, you're doing a webinar, you're presenting something, you've got a launch, you're launching a new service, whatever that might be, you can go to, you can ask it to create you this content kind of calendar, and you can then follow that kind of pattern. It's created the content for you, it's created the schedule for you. You just then have to go into your scheduling tool or use Zapier to do it for you and go and set those all up so that it will go out. So I'm going to stop there because I think we are coming towards the end. I'm just going to have a quick look to see if there's any more questions. So I don't have any in the Q&A box. Let me have a look in the chat box. So Stan asks, will ChatGPT decipher any abbreviations like LOL or FYI, etc., and respond in English? So ChatGPT has been trained by reading trillions and trillions of pages of internet. So if somebody has used that on the internet, it's going to know what it is. It's actually quite a funny thing to do, to get it to speak like a millennial or speak like a Gen Z, speak like a kid, a youth, and it will speak in that way. So yes, it does know things like LOL and FYI. It does know those sorts of things. You can get it to write in that way, or you can ask it a question and say, what does this mean? That it will respond in that way. And also it responds in English. It does actually work in different languages as well. So you can get it to switch between UK English and US English. So those slight different spellings, where some of them you have favorite has a U or color has a U, and in the US it doesn't. You can get it to change the language that it writes in, or you can even have a conversation with it in a different language if perhaps you're learning a language. That's a really useful thing to do. So hopefully that answers the question. Yes, it does know how to decipher those kind of terminology. Jay says, the second part of the presentation is very useful. However, I need to review it. And again, yeah, because you're part of the 64 that's not used the tool. So I'm not sure about the presentations. I will leave it to the CPD guys, and they will answer that question for you, hopefully, about where you can get the recording and that sort of information. If you are struggling, if you want to get started with the you want to get your own account, we do have that video to help you get access, help you get set up, that sort of thing. And we also have lots of videos on our YouTube channel and stuff. And you're welcome to join the Facebook group as well if you have any questions for us to get more information. But I think that's the end of the questions. So I will pass it back to you, Stan, now, if that's all right. And I hope everyone's enjoyed that. Thanks very much.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Emily. And of course, Mark, but I've got one question, a bit of a dilemma, actually. What are we going to do with all the extra time we've now created? Anyway, in all seriousness, on the 18th of October, we have Cheryl Howard on Trust and Foreign Tax Investing. On the 23rd of November, we have Professor Jackie Aronser with the year-end update. Your certificates will be coming through in a day or so, as quickly as possible. I did ask ChatGPT to write them, but it let me down. So I have to do it manually. Once again, thank you, Emily. It's been a fascinating afternoon. Mark is not with us, but he's on holiday. So thank you again. And thanks everybody for joining us. It's been really illuminating for me. I have delved in a little bit into ChatGPT, and today I did understand a little bit more. So I think we're on the way, and it looks like everybody else is going to bear the brunt of the kind of messages we're going to send out now. Danny, thanks a lot for everything, and wish everybody a good evening.
Yes, thanks everyone. Hope you have a good one and enjoy testing and playing around with this. We'll see you next month for the next one.